Min Ji-woo. Remember that name, because he's the one about to flip this world upside down. For a century, not years, but 100 long, grueling years, he was a prisoner of a nightmare, trapped in a dimension crawling with bloodthirsty monsters. He endured hell in total isolation, until the day he awakened a god-tier power, infinite regeneration. Finally breaking free, he stepped back into the tutorial tower, only to find he was a ghost, forgotten by everyone. The cruel irony? While he was rotting in 100 years of agony, only a measly 10 years had ticked by back on Earth. In this new era, hunters are the new gods, and the strong are worshipped like royalty. But to him, the deadly tutorial monsters were nothing more than insects to be obliterated. Now, the entire world is shaking as they witness a monster among men, armed with a century of combat instinct and survival wisdom. He possesses the broken ability to literally rip the skills right out of other players. He's the living proof that 100 years in hell didn't break his soul. It didn't destroy him. It forged him into a literal god walking among mortals. A haunting voice echoes, whispering about the star that plummeted into the demon realm a century ago. It warns the young man that his strange power is no longer welcome to toy with that world. A massive dragon looms over him, breathless, demanding to know what desperate wish brought a mere mortal here. The youth's answer is simple. He just wants to go home, back to his own world. The beast pauses. It scoffs, thinking it's a pitifully small request for someone who bet his entire life on the line. The dragon claims the wish is pathetic, yet concedes that the boy's destiny has somehow led him to this exact moment. Then comes the catch. The dimensional crystal needed to return home is embedded deep within the dragon's own heart. The protagonist scowls, thinking of the unspeakable agony he endured just to stand before this prize. He survived a century of slaughter in that godforsaken pit, 100 years of pure, unadulterated suffering. Amused, the dragon decides to grant him one final mercy, a quick death to end his pathetic life. But instead of trembling, the young man just smirks. He agrees. It's definitely time to put an end to this long-running nightmare. Suddenly, a blinding explosion of light erupts from his body, surging toward the gargantuan beast like a holy nuke. The dragon recoils, its ancient eyes widening in genuine, soul-chilling terror. It screams in confusion, wondering what kind of sinister, overwhelming power is swallowing it whole. As his wounds knit back together instantly, the boy wonders if it's healing magic, but the dragon knows better. It's not just healing, it's true, high-speed regeneration, with his body restored to its peak. He gives the beast a 3-second ultimatum. Hand over its heart, or he'll rip it out himself. A chilling warning follows. He was never just some ordinary warrior. The creature is paralyzed by shock, unable to comprehend the divine recovery happening before its eyes. With a brutal, lightning-fast strike, the protagonist mercilessly crushes the dragon's massive skull. He counts to 1, coldly stating he's run out of patience for this petty squabble. With a thunderous crash, the dragon's mountain-sized carcass finally hits the dirt, defeated. Revealed as Xiao Ming, a healer-class hunter, he picks up the crystal and scoffs at the prize. He grumbles that this shiny rock is a pretty shitty reward for 100 years of constant warfare. A voice snaps at him to shut up and respect the artifact, so he casually tosses it into the air. Without a second thought, the madman simply gulps down the dimensional crystal in one go. A massive magic circle erupts beneath him, pulsing with raw energy as a satisfied grin spreads across his face. The hero thinks to himself, finally, after an eternity, Earth is within his reach. He's itching to see his disciples again, and more importantly, to reunite with his brother. With one final surge of will, he focuses all his energy on his true home, Earth. In a flash of light, he spat out, landing face first in the grass of an unfamiliar forest. He groans and complains, slowly blinking away the vertigo from the interdimensional trip. Suddenly, he bolts upright with a yell, panic hitting him as he surveys the strange surroundings. A mysterious voice calls him an opportunist, asking if he's finally decided to show up. The voice insults him, calling him food and threatening to vomit inside his very entrails. The young man ignores the threat, complaining about portal sickness and wishing the parasite would just digest already. Annoyed, he tells the creature to pipe down before he pukes. The parasite asks the big question, "Are we on Earth?" The youth confirms they are, though the landscape looks nothing like the home he remembers. He senses a bizarre flow of mana, the exact same energy he felt inside the monster portals. Suddenly, his mana pool starts draining rapidly. The parasite panics, asking if his power was a fraud. The hero loses it, screaming in disbelief that this reset is happening all over again. He realizes it's a side effect of a jump. His power has been nerfed to a mere 20%. The parasite is livid, but the young man tries to explain that crossing worlds isn't that simple. He remembers it took him decades to get strong last time, which sends a parasite into a total rage. He tries to play it cool, claiming he still has a few tricks left, but a blood-curdling scream cuts him off. A girl bursts through the trees, breathless and terrified, cursing her luck for getting separated from her group. A massive orc with a bloodstained axe is hot on her heels. She trips, falling into the dirt, paralyzed by fear. She hits the ground hard, trapped with absolutely no way to escape the monster's blade. Pure despair washes over her face. She closes her eyes, accepting that her story ends right here. But out of nowhere, our hero steps in, blocking the monster casually and asking if she has a moment to chat. He flashes a wide, ecstatic grin, asking her with pure excitement, "Is this really planet Earth?" The girl is completely blindsided by the weird question, stammering a yes while still shaking like a leaf. He asked for the year, 2037. She's stunned. Watching the beast, he just casually dropped with a single hit. Xiao Ming does the math. 10 years on Earth, 100 years for him. The time dilation was insane. Then he drops the big question. He needs to know who the current president of Korea is. Hearing the name, he absolutely loses his mind, shouting in rage that he can't believe that guy is in charge. He seethes with anger, disgusted that such a piece of trash managed to climb so high. He wonders if Korea is truly out of heroes, or if the guy is just a master of disguise. Noticing the thick mana in the air, he asks her about it. She explains they're inside the tutorial tower. She says the tower is where hunters awaken, but to him, this whole system is a completely foreign concept. She mentions only the first generation didn't need the tower. He ignores the lore and asks how to leave. The girl says the world record for clearing it is 3 weeks. The hero goes silent, deep in thought. A rustle in the bushes snaps them both back to reality, sending them into an immediate combat stance. A massive tiger-like monster leaps out, and the girl lets out a terrified shriek at the sight of it. She identifies the beast as a Troiger, a high-level threat that spells a certain death for rookies. The girl screams for them to run, but Xiao Ming is stuck on the 3 weeks comment. That's way too long. She begs him to flee, but he's too busy testing his weakened body while the beast roars in his face. He sighs, realizing he'll have to be careful, while the girl behind him is having a total meltdown. With a casual shove, he moves her aside and delivers a world-shattering punch straight to the tiger's jaw. He puts every ounce of his remaining strength into that one devastating strike. The girl is frozen in shock as he casually declares it'll only take him 5 days to wrap this up. He states with absolute, chilling confidence that 5 days is more than enough for a god like him. Cut to a high-end office where a man receives a report about a group exiting the tower. The boss assumes it's the 8-week veteran team, but the subordinate drops a bombshell. One survivor isn't a rookie. Even worse, the person who just cleared it isn't even in the National Hunter database. The employee adds that this mysterious newcomer is currently turning the entire system upside down. The boss grabs the report, his eyes nearly popping out of his head when he sees the photo and stammers the name. He stares at the screen, whispering in disbelief, "Is that my brother?" Back in the tower, Xiao Ming glances back, asking the girl if she plans on stalking him forever. The hunter is in a trance, wondering if this is all just a fever dream. She can't wrap her head around it. How can someone clear the tower in 5 days? Meanwhile, Xiao Ming feels his true power slowly returning. Suddenly, a system voice booms, announcing the end of the tutorial and beginning the stat calculation. The system glitches, unable to process his god-tier data, as the hero wears a sharp, glowing smile. The massive exit portal finally rips open right in front of them, radiating pure energy. The protagonist steps forward into the light, leaving the girl and his past behind him. The girl begs him to wait, but his mind is already miles away, savoring the realization. He's finally back in Seoul. Out in the lobby, the crowd stands frozen in awe as the portal ripples open, revealing the two of them stepping out. A guard rushes over to investigate the chaos. An employee points toward the shimmering gate. One staff member immediately recognizes the girl from the entry logs, but the hero is a total ghost. The guard steps up, and the young man greets him casually. He nonchalantly claims they're the survivors and leaders of Team 2. The guard scowls, explaining the massive red flag. This guy's name was never on the official mission roster. Looking at the protagonist's lean frame, the guard sneers with pure contempt, doubting such a scrawny kid could ever clear the tower. He roughly shoves a staffer aside, puffing out his chest to handle this trash personally. He barks a demand for an explanation, but Xiaoming simply says he didn't use the front door. The guard screams that he's a liar. Since the portal is the only way in, the guard grows livid at the boy's calm denial. Even a parasite chimes in, noting that this loudmouth seems to have a real fetish for starting trouble. With a predatory grin, the massive guard closes in, eager to teach the rookie a painful lesson in respect. He looms over the boy, threatening that things are about to get ugly if he doesn't start talking. The guard's patience snaps. He roars at him to spill the truth right now, or prepare for a world of hurt. But our hero just flashes a razor-sharp, mocking side smile. He gives a chilling command to the guard to shut his trap because his breath is absolutely rancid, leaving the man stunned. Xiaoming casually cracks his neck. He stares the brute down, asking if he's truly ready to be the one ending up on a stretcher. He throws down the gauntlet for a fight, but only if the big guy closes his stinking mouth. The guard erupts in a frenzy. His face turns a violent shade of crimson, fueled by pure, unadulterated hatred. He lunges forward with a wild haymaker, hurling insults at the hero with every bit of his strength. But the boy catches the blow like it's nothing, coldly reminding him that he already warned him to be quiet. To add salt to the wound, he calls him a mouth breather, a heavy, direct insult that cuts deep. The surrounding employees are left completely shell-shocked, watching the exchange in dead silence. The scene shifts to show every single guard unconscious on the floor. The higher-ups arrive, wondering what kind of hurricane hit the place. An employee stammers that a rookie wiped out security, and the boss demands to know the guild leader's location. Si Junmin steps forward, his voice cold as he asks if the security cameras caught the face of this monster. They pull up the footage immediately, showing the hero dismantling the elite guards like they were toddlers. In the video, the security team is tossed around effortlessly, looking like nothing more than discarded ragdolls. The man notes he took down 5 hunters at once, suspecting some kind of high-level invisibility skill. But another staffer corrects him. It wasn't invisibility. The boy was simply moving faster than the human eye could track. Si Junmin scans the digital report, his heart stopping at the name Xiao. He looks at the photo, and his blood runs cold. It's the exact same face from 10 years ago, frozen in time. Without a moment's delay, he gives a ruthless, direct order to his subordinates. Put a massive bounty on the kid's head immediately. He commands every single guild member to hunt him down like a dog. Left alone, he wonders where his brother has been. Was he taken, or did he just abandon them? His mind races, desperately trying to predict the next move of his long-lost brother. The scene shifts elsewhere. We see Junmin interrogating the female hunter who cleared the tower. He demands the details of her journey. She confirms the story, admitting she only survived by following that mysterious young man. He realizes she's more than a survivor when she reveals she awakened an S-rank skill. Junmin's eyes gleam. Seeing her value, he immediately offers her a prestigious spot in the elite Imperium Guild. The girl's heart soars, unable to believe the world-famous Imperium actually want her on their roster. She's about to say yes, but a mysterious voice sneers that Imperium looks more like a low-life street gang. Junmin turns, irritated. He snaps at the intruder to watch his tongue, making the girl jump in fright. Right then, a hunter with striking white hair strolls in, dropping a heavy dose of sarcastic apologies. He introduces himself as Li Weigon, the legendary lightning master of the Zhonghan Guild, and calls Junmin delicate. Another powerhouse, Choi Cian-el, chimes in, noting they were all summoned by the Hunter Association for this anomaly. They look at the broken guards on the floor, wondering if this mysterious awakened one is the real deal. Weigon kneels down, noting that the newcomer certainly knows how to make a rowdy entrance. Cian-el nods in agreement. He declares they need to secure the guy immediately because a talent like that is worth his weight in gold. He admits he's going to scout him, and Weigon laughs, proposing a first come, first-served race to find him. He suggests that whoever bags the hero gets to keep him, warning that things might get bloody if they clash. See Junmin watches the two predators bicker in silence, his expression darker than a storm cloud. CNIL suggests they split up to cover more ground. Wygon tosses his card to the startled girl and waves goodbye. He promises they'll all be crossing paths again very soon, see. Junmin mutters a curse under his breath, doubting the lightning master will actually find anything. Outside, a blue-haired disciple waits anxiously for his master, who emerges from the building shortly after. The young man asks if the meeting went well, and Wygon immediately orders him to mobilize all hunters to find a target. When the disciple asks who they are looking for, his master's face twists into a mysterious, wicked grin. With a chilling look, he reveals that their true target isn't just the hero, it's Si Junmin's entire family. The scene cuts to our hero, who is casually strolling through the neon-lit, bustling city streets. The parasite grumbles that after 100 years of hell, his first priority is fried chicken, but the boy eats with pure bliss. He tells the creature to shut up so he can finally recharge his humanity with some decent food. Back on the sidewalk, the parasite asks where they're heading next. He responds with a heavy seriousness. He says the answer to that question has been burning in his mind for a century. With a distant, longing look, the hero says there's only one destination left. His house. He stops before a weathered, old home. He stares at the gate, confirming that this was where his life began. With a trembling hand, he pushes open the wooden gate, which lets out a long, mournful creak. Suddenly, a warm voice echoes in his mind, welcoming him back in a vivid flashback. He sees his parents standing there, greeting him with smiles after a long, hard day's work. He remembers his little brother's laughter as he ran toward their mother's call. It was a beautiful, sun-drenched memory of a family dinner where everyone was safe and happy. But the brutal reality hits hard. The house is a trashed, hollow shell. Shattered bottles and thick cobwebs paint a picture of total abandonment. He stands in the wreckage, absorbing the decay with a hollow, heartbroken gaze. He sinks onto the porch and sighs. He whispers a lament that he can't even clearly picture their faces anymore. They say forgetting is a gift from the gods, but for him, it feels like a soul-crushing curse. For 100 years, he killed to survive while his body stayed frozen in time and his human senses rotted away. Terrified that his very identity would evaporate, he spent every second clawing onto his fading memories. He gripped the thought of his brother and his loyal disciples like a lifeline in the dark. Instead of comforting him, those memories became an obsession of regret, but they were the only things that kept him sane. It was that stubborn grip on the past that kept his heart beating through a century of slaughter. The parasite complains about the cold, but the hero reminds it that there was no fried chicken in the demon realm. He then warns that their stay will be short. It's time to move on. The young man decides his next mission, track down his disciples, and see what kind of legends they've become over the last 10 years. He hopes his brother, Si Junmin, is living a good life, but his thoughts are cut short by a shout. We found him. A squad of hostile hunters surrounds him, and the hero just sighs, saying they're right on schedule. Their leader steps forward arrogantly, asking if he's the punk who caused the scene at the tower exit. Another goon mocks him, asking if he expects a gold medal for beating up a few lobby guards. They brag about being from the Jonghan Guild, but the young man tells them he couldn't care less about their name. The hunter threatens him, but the hero retorts that a dog like him should be walking on all fours, not trying to talk big. He doubles down on the trash talk, calling the guy a gorilla who belongs in a cage. The hunter's fuse blows. He snarls that the talking is over and prepares to give the boy a brutal lesson. A toxic green light erupts from his body. He lunges with a bone-crushing blow aimed right at the hero's jaw, but the strike smashes into the brick wall instead, as the protagonist vanishes and reappears with godlike speed. The attacker spins around, screaming in a rage about being called a gorilla. His friends just laugh at his incompetence. They mock their leader, noting he just got ghosted by a kid with his hands still in his pockets. The system explains, the guy's Mercury skill is a top-tier buff that doubles the user's agility. The parasite asks if it's time for a snack, and the hero agrees. It's time to devour his first skill in this new world. The protagonist leaps into the air, leaving the red-haired hunter spinning in total confusion. In the blink of an eye, he materializes right behind the guy, who lets out a panicked shriek. With a surgical, crushing strike. He slams the hunter into the pavement with terrifying, overwhelming force. The brute coughs up blood as the sheer impact of the strike rattles his very soul. Seeing their leader folded like laundry, the rest of the squad is frozen in absolute terror. The hero looms over the broken body like a grim reaper, ready to execute his next cold-blooded move. He extends a hand, commanding his predator trait to feast on the helpless prey before him. Suddenly, a void of black magic erupts, pinning every hunter to the pavement. The predator's skill is live. The extraction is a success. The Mercury Speed attribute is ripped away and added to his own arsenal. He's relieved the skill works on Earth, though the parasite grumbles that the flavor doesn't compare to fried chicken. One of the fallen goons writhes in agony, a living testament to the hero's overwhelming physical power. Desperate, one survivor shrieks for a group assault, so the hero decides to take his new toy for a test drive. Following the parasite's wicked suggestion, he readies the Mercury skill to see just how fast he can really go. He blurs into a lethal shadow, dismantling the entire group in one seamless, fluid motion. A hot-headed hunter lunges with a knife, burning a dash skill to close the gap, but it's futile. The hero shuts him down with a single, surgical pop to the chin. He scoffs at the man's pathetic, blunt blade. With a cold gaze, he reaches out and plucks the weak point attack skill right out of the man's soul. Another fool tries to sneak in an attack, but the boy simply sighs, deciding to add one more skill to his collection. Suddenly, a desperate voice screams his name, forcing him to halt his lethal momentum mid-strike. The dust settles to reveal our hero holding a hostage by the throat while the rest of the elite squad is face down. He stares down the remaining enemy, the edge of a blade kissing the man's neck with terrifying precision. See Junmin arrives breathless, memories of his brother flooding back. He breaks into a relieved smile at the sight of him. But the hero just looks back with a mask of shock and confusion, processing the face of the man before him. The protagonist blinks, finally recognizing the man and asking what his little brother is doing in a place like this. A flashback kicks in, dragging us 20 years back to the day the first gate tore open the sky. Monsters poured out, turning Earth into a slaughterhouse, but the tragedy also sparked the awakening of human powers. And just like that, the first generation of hunters was born from the ashes of civilization. With their parents gone, Xiaomin had to trade his youth for a blade to provide for his little brother. Young Si Junmin pouts, asking his big brother why he's skipping school. Xiaomin just beams at him. He tells the kid that school is over. From today on, he's joining the workforce to keep them alive. The boy's face falls, wondering if he's a burden, but Xiaomin quickly ruffles his hair to comfort him. He jokes that he's just getting a head start on his career path compared to the other kids. Si Junmin asks if he'll be home late. The hero waves goodbye, promising to return before the sun sets. He swears he'll be back as fast as possible so the little guy doesn't have to worry in the dark. The scene shifts to a memory of the protagonist marveling at his brother's ultra-luxurious new mansion. He's blown away by the opulence, and Si Junmin credits everything to the lessons his brother taught him. In his head, Junmin reveals he bought this palace specifically for his brother's return. He excitedly shows off the rooms. The hero looks at his brother, realizing just how much the kid must have suffered to build this empire alone. Si Junmin is moved to tears, noting that even after a century, he still speaks like the brother he lost. He steps closer, voice trembling, asking where he's been and why it took 100 years to come home. Xiaomin flashes a warm smile and invites him to sit. He's got a century's worth of epic tales to tell. Settled in the living room, the elder brother begins the short version of his hellish 100-year odyssey. He details his accidental exile into a brutal, alien dimension crawling with nightmare fuel. He explains the encounter with the skill-snatching parasite that became his only companion. Together, they slew a dragon god and harvested its heart crystal for a ticket back to reality. That crystal was his one-way ticket to finally stepping back on Earth's soil. He finishes the story while stuffing his face, casually mentioning the parasite Prida now lives in his nervous system. Junmin jumps back, terrified his brother is possessed, but Xiaomin clarifies it's just a helpful parasite. He tries to soothe his brother's panic, admitting it sounds insane, but swearing he hasn't lost his marbles. Si Junmin sighs, choosing to trust him. For now, he's just grateful his big brother isn't a ghost anymore. The mood shifts to ice when the hero asks how that scumbag Choi Dae-soo managed to become the president. His brother explains that the rat stole the credit for every major victory to climb his way to the top. Xiaomin's teeth grind in fury, while Junmin worries about the inevitable clash with their powerful rival. He asks if the earlier attackers were sent by that one-eyed rat, but Junmin shakes his head. He explains the new power structure. The world is now ruled by the 7 great guilds. It turns out his own guild, Imperium, is a top-tier member of this elite, world-dominating circle. He mentions Zhang Han is another powerhouse, and the hero notices the underlying tension in his brother's voice. Xiaomin changes the subject, asking for news on his former disciples, the kids he trained long ago. Junmin's expression darkens. He reveals the group fractured and went their separate ways years ago. One went into hiding, while another sold his soul to that bastard President Dae-soo. The hero asks about the last one, Min-jun, his heart sinking as he waits for the answer. With a heavy heart, Junmin drops the bombshell. His favorite disciple was brutally murdered. Xiaomin is struck by a wave of shock, his voice turning cold as he demands the name of the killer. Junmin explains the trail went cold because the body vanished in a thin air. He suspects of foul play. He mentions a shadow war between hunters and that even a top-secret agency couldn't crack the case. The hero is puzzled by the acronym, needing a breakdown of who these special agents really are. Junmin explains they are a global task force designed to police hunter-on-hunter crimes. He describes them as the elite frontliners who deal with the absolute worst of the awakened. In short, they're the superpowered FBI meant to keep the godlike hunters in check. With a predatory gleam in his eye, Xiaomin asks if his brother has an in with this agency. Junmin confirms he has contacts but begs his brother not to go on a solo suicide mission for revenge. The protagonist thanks him but clarifies he doesn't just want to file, he needs a way into the system. Junmin argues that hunters should stick to fighting, not detective work, urging him to just rest. Xiaomin cuts him off instantly, reminded him he's been resting in a blood-soaked war zone for a century. With a look that could kill, he declares there is absolutely nothing in this world he can't handle. Junmin gulps, suddenly remembering why the world used to fear his brother's name. Faced with that unstoppable will, Junmin caves and promises to call a high-ranking manager at the agency. He notes his brother's aura has become something truly monstrous. Xiaomin then spots a familiar face on the monitor. Junmin gives the name, but the hero scoffs. That guy is using a fake identity. The scene jumps ahead 2 days. A man storms into a room, his blood boiling as he screams at the incompetent rookies. He's livid that the higher-ups dumped a newbie on his team without even a basic combat trial. The man starts a back-in-my-day rant, claiming the hunter life used to be a real struggle, not a game. The rookie has heard this lecture 1,000 times, but the boss is stuck on repeat, bragging about his past. He boasts about how his team was once on the brink of total annihilation after losing their star player. But at the last second, a god-tier healer appeared out of nowhere to drag them back from the grave. He's mid-reminiscence when a voice calls his name, snapping him back to the present. The hero walks in, asking why he's using a fake name now, leaving the boss utterly bewildered. With a smug smirk, he asks if the man recognizes the mad dog who saved his pathetic life. The leader stammers Xiaomin before screaming in terror. Memories of the legendary mad dog flashback. The flashback shows the hero's healing was more like a violent miracle. The leader is shaking. He clears his throat, awkwardly introducing Xiaomin to the squad as their new top talent. Dripping with sweat and embarrassment, he begs his team to give the rookie whatever he wants. The team is baffled by the boss's 180-degree turn, realizing this newbie is a certified monster. The boss snaps at a girl, barking orders for everyone to get into the briefing room immediately. As they walk, the squad whispers, wondering if they've just been joined by a secret S-rank legend. They scramble to please him with coffee and gear, but he just wants a simple caffeine fix. The data manager asks the boss exactly what kind of sensitive files she should open up for the recruit. The protagonist cuts in, demanding every single scrap of data on hunters who have died under mysterious circumstances. The girl hesitates at the grim request, but the leader barks at her to follow orders. No questions asked. She sighs, wondering what kind of demon has possessed her boss to make him act so submissive. She clarifies if he only wants the dirty laundry, the cases of hunters murdering each other. He nods, adding that he wants the most wanted list of killer hunters still on the loose. He stares at the screen, knowing only a top-tier awakened could have taken down his legendary disciple. Hunting down the killer is top priority now. When the girl asks where to dump the intel, the hero just tells her to beam it straight to his phone. Right on cue, a sharp knock echoes through the meeting room door. A runner bursts in, reporting that the cops are screaming for backup because a massive gang war just kicked off. The leader thinks it's just some low-level street thugs, but our hero drops a truth bomb. One of the gangs is Cerberus. He sighs, already done with this drama. Meanwhile, the protagonist is left scratching his head, wondering what kind of circus Cerberus actually is. The girl drops the horror story. They're a lethal syndicate famous for trafficking high-rank hunters. Hearing that, our hero's eyes sharpen. Without missing a beat, he orders the squad leader to put him on the front lines so he can investigate things personally. The boss caves instantly and practically gets dragged along as the hero charges out, confirming he's ready for the hunt. He throws on his jacket, joking that as a rookie, he needs to keep his superior from making a mess. Cut to a trash bar. The place is a graveyard of broken glass, with a cocky thug bragging about how easy the slaughter was. Meet Gango, the gang's heavy hitter and second in command, who thinks his defense is an unbreakable wall. Not to be outdone, the number 3, Hicken, pipes up wanting his own slice of the glory. Gango mocks him, saying he's got to take him down first to earn any respect, and Hicken vows to do just that. The bragging continues until a subordinate asks if they can start marking their new turf. The boss roars for the world to hear. He declares that from this second on, this blood-soaked ground belongs to Cerberus. Boom! A massive explosion cuts his victory speech short, sending one of the thugs flying. Hicken scrambles up in a daze, wondering who's crazy enough to crash their party after they've already cleared the room. Our hero struggles to remember the agency's long name before the parasite whispers HMCS in his ear. He steps out from the smoke. He introduces himself as the Hunter Police and gives the gang a simple choice: surrender or get dismantled. Hicken panics, his mind racing to figure out how these guys breach their perimeter without a single alarm going off. The gang leader spits on the ground, calling the hero a filthy pig before screaming a death threat. To show he's not playing, the boss mercilessly crushes the skull of his own henchman like a grape. Hicken is horrified, shouting at the boss to stop the senseless killing. He screams that killing their own men makes things a nightmare for them, but the boss is too far gone. Suddenly, the protagonist materializes right in front of him, casually cracking his neck. The gang leader's jaw drops. He never even saw the guy move. With a wicked, predatory grin and glowing eyes, the hero dares the boss to show him a real fight. The underlings realize they're in over their heads, terrified by the sheer pressure coming from the stranger's gaze. The boss doesn't care how the kid survived. He's convinced a little extra effort will bury him for good. With a primal roar, he activates his iron armor skill, promising to turn the hero into a red smear on the floor. The entire gang charges like a wave of steel, ready to end our hero's story. Suddenly, the boss's vision blurs, and he finds himself in a void, seeing his late grandfather across a misty river. He reaches out for the old man, but the grandfather waves in a terrifying, unnatural way. The boss screams in pure psychological despair. While the thug is trapped in a nightmare about his dead grandpa, the hero is busy tenderizing his face before grabbing him by the hair. He roughly hauls the half-dead leader up, barking at him to stop napping and get back to reality. With the room littered with bodies, he turns to the last man standing, noting he's the only one left to finish the set. The parasite's mouth waters. The entity declares the guy's skill looks delicious and orders the predator trait to feast. The survivor begs for his life, crying that they're just low-level lackeys and asking why a hero is being so brutal. But the protagonist just scoffs, telling him that being incompetent isn't an excuse for being a criminal. The thug can't wrap his head around why they're being slaughtered so efficiently. He begs for a reason. The hero coldly explains he was just testing out the local trash and decided it was time to pull some weeds out of the city. Right then, the team leader finally catches up, looking like he's about to have a heart attack from worry. He sees the carnage and loses his mind, while the hero just grumbles about how slow the professionals are to arrive. He points to the survivor, saying he left one alive for questioning. As for the rest of the gang, he's already given them a one-way ticket to the afterlife. The boss is trembling, wondering how a rookie can be so chillingly calm after a literal bloodbath. The hero suddenly remembers he forgot to turn on his body cam, and that he's still technically on probation. He tells the boss to sweep this under the rug, and the terrified man nods like a bobblehead. The hero complains about the blood on his shirt. The boss, still hiding behind a crate, can only nod in agreement to every word the monster says. A secret phone call reports the total annihilation of Cerberus and confirms that Hicken has been neutralized. On the other end, a shadowy hunter in Hong Kong asks for the name of the man who dared to kill his brother. At the international airport, the elite hunter Gert lands with his personal kill squad from Hong Kong. They move with lethal purpose toward a prearranged meeting spot. A Korean Association agent tries to offer some weak condolences, but Gert just wants to find his brother's body. The agent explains the forensics team is currently examining the remains of Hicken, who is a prime suspect. Gert's face twists into a sarcastic, ugly sneer at the word remains. He demands to know if it was an HMCS agent who did the deed, but the agent stays tight-lipped. Gert is seething. He asks if he's free to roam the city, but the agent immediately shuts him down. The agent warns him that a single incident would lead to immediate deportation and a massive legal headache. Gert reads between the lines. The government wants him to pay his respects and get the hell out of their country. Immediately, he contacts his right-hand man, Ryo, who picks up on the first ring. The command is simple and bloody. Find the person responsible for his brother's death at any cost. Gert walks away with murder in his eyes, promising to rip the heart out of whoever touched his blood. Back with Xiao Min, he asks his brother if someone looted his disciple Min Jun's apartment after the murder. Yunmin confirms it. He explains the place was picked clean just 2 days after the body was found. Since a hunter's mana is like a fingerprint, the thief likely took everything to scrub any magical traces. Min Jun was an archaeologist, so the thieves grabbed every artifact that might be stained with his unique energy. Xiaomin isn't buying the mastermind theory. He thinks it was just a common thief. Junmin is shocked, showing him the list of stolen treasures. The list is full of high-risk items. Junmin asks why anyone would take such a gamble. Xiaomin reasons that if a pro wanted to erase mana, they would have just torched the whole building. Junmin asks if a regular thief would really break into a crime scene, and Xiaomin says the files show plenty of bottom feeders doing just that. He decides to hit up the black market fences, but his brother says it's a dead lead after all this time. Xiaomin just smirks. He tells him you never know until you start knocking heads, promising to be home by dinner. But a second later, he cringes inwardly, feeling a bit embarrassed for sounding like such a cliché action hero. Predator starts whining about the lack of progress, demanding to take the wheel for a bit. The entity mocks Xiao Min, thanking him for successfully leading them into a complete dead end. Deep in a dark alley, a thug hears the hero's internal bickering and asks his boss if they've got company. Xiao Min ducks behind a pole instantly, using his enhanced senses to eavesdrop on the crooks. They're complaining that the HMCS bastards are currently raiding the black markets and caught one of their guys yesterday. The thug explains that these special agents don't need warrants and are authorized to execute criminals on sight. He suggests they bury their stolen hunter gear deep, since that's exactly what the police are hunting for. Out of nowhere, Xiaomin steps out and loudly announces he's the bastard who's coming for all their loot. The thugs lose it, realizing they've been found by the very boogeyman they were just talking about. Xiaomin demands answers, but the boss orders his goon to attack. The goon cries out that his skill is non-combat only. Suddenly, a crowd of backup thugs floods the alley, asking if the boss is okay, and surrounding our hero. The boss laughs, thinking Xiaomin is an idiot for coming solo, promising his body will be shark food by morning. Pinned in the alley, the hero just stares them down with a terrifyingly calm expression. He actually thanks them for gathering in one spot, so he doesn't have to chase them. A golden aura begins to leak from his body. Xiaomin tells Predator that playtime is over and to load up his strongest round. The entity demands a feast in exchange. A glowing magic circle erupts on the pavement as the deal is sealed. The energy around him hits a fever pitch. The bandits are blinded by a flash as Xiaomin unleashes a localized sun. A tidal wave of golden destruction roars through the narrow alley, vaporizing the darkness and showing the world what true power looks like. The shockwave sends debris and thugs flying into the air like autumn leaves. The survivors are left fried and twitching as the lightning-like skill cooks them alive. The boss is left trembling on the ground, staring up at Xiaomin, who coldly asks if he's ready to play tour guide now. Peeing his pants in terror, the thug stammers, asking what kind of monster he's actually dealing with. With a chilling grin, Xiaomin just asks if he's really talking to a mirror. With a terrifyingly confident gaze, he finally drops his legendary title, the Mad Dog, the Predator. The entity brags about how much better things are under its leadership, but the hero just calls it a lucky break. The parasite catches a familiar mana scent, and Xiaomin's heart skips. He's finally found Min Jun's stolen research. He grabs a notebook, but the lock is still tightly shut. That book is locked tight with high-level magic. It only yields to the original owner's mana signature. Predator is fuming because it can't feast on the secrets inside, but Xiaomin remains chill. He only needs the residual mana trapped within. Without missing a beat, he speed dials Zhang Heo, barking an order to bring the car and clear out a fresh batch of trash he's just bundled up. He tells him the criminals are all tied up and ready for pickup, so he better get a move on. Once the call ends, he vanishes into thin air, reappearing at a shady, underground hub where the laws of man don't apply. This is a dark market where forbidden scrolls and god-tier skills are traded like common candy, a lawless neutral zone. Welcome to the Eclipse Sanctuary, a place crawling with the most dangerous awakened souls on the planet. A mysterious woman, deep in a card reading, suddenly pauses. Her supernatural senses tingle as she feels a powerful presence. The great shaman breaks into a wide grin. She sensed a very special guest approaching her doorstep. Xiaomin notes the place hasn't aged a day, while the parasite is already itching to slaughter everyone in the room for a snack. As he strolls through the courtyard, every head turns. His aura is so overwhelming that staying low profile is impossible. He reminds the hungry crowd that this is a no-fire zone. Then Wu Ming greets him, noting it's been an eternity since they last met. With a seductive smile, she admits she's been expecting him and leads him into her private inner sanctum. She remarks that a decade has passed without him changing a bit. Xiaomin just dryly tosses the compliment back at her. Wu Ming pouts, asking what could possibly keep him away for 10 years, acting like a woman scorned by his long absence. Xiaomin doesn't do small talk. He drops the diary on the table and demands she rip the mana out of it immediately. His bluntness makes her cackle. She loves a man who gets straight to business, especially when it involves the forbidden art she adores. She sets the stage for the ritual with a ritual chalice and a wicked dagger, telling him to shed his blood without a second thought. Xiaomin grips the blade, knowing exactly what kind of blood tax this ritual demands. Rewinding mana to its pure state is a feat of gods, so he slices his palm, letting his essence drip into the cup. His mana rewind is a broken skill. It's like uncooking a meal to get back the raw ingredients. As she works on the book, it's revealed that these rewind skills are taboo because they break the fundamental laws of the universe. That's why these abilities are the holy grail for the criminal underworld and are kept under 24/7 surveillance by the authorities. Wu Ming finishes the job and licks her lips, praising the flavor of his blood. The parasite thinks this woman is a total freak. He tosses her a tip in the form of a shimmering golden light and prepares to head out. Wu Ming asks if he's really leaving so soon, but Xiaomin says he's on a tight schedule, though he promises a return visit. She lets out a playful giggle, watching him leave and thinking he's still the most enigmatic man she's ever met. Back in the getaway car, the parasite vows never to return to that scary lady, but Xiaomin wonders why it's so grumpy today. He scoffs, thinking a little blood was a small price to pay for what they gained. Xiaomin checks his watch. Next stop, the Ancient History Research Center. He's going back to where the nightmare began. He reveals that this very building is the crime scene where his beloved disciple, Min Jun, was taken out. The parasite hates the idea of trespassing, but Xiaomin reminds it that the entire property belongs to his brother's guild, Imperium. With a shadow over his face, he reflects on how Min Jun's death sent shockwaves through the entire hunter community back then. He admits that the loss still feels like a fresh wound in his soul. He's more determined than ever. He vows to reconstruct the events of that bloody day and unmask the coward who did it. The parasite asks if he's really going to burn that much energy, and Xiaomin doesn't hesitate for a heartbeat. He triggers Mana Memory, a god-tier skill that turns old mana traces into emotional holograms of the past. The mana he harvested from the shaman erupts from the jar, flooding the room like a ghostly mist. Suddenly, the walls melt away and flickering images of the past begin to dance before his eyes. The parasite complains about the low-res projection, but Xiaomin explains the skill tracks feelings and intents, not just visuals. He analyzes the spectral combat, noting that Min Jun was fighting like a beast. He was no pushover. This confirms his fear. Whoever killed his disciple had to be an absolute monster in combat to win that fast. The ghostly image of Min Jun gasps out a final breath, whispering Order of the Fifth, which sets Xiao Min's mind racing. He wonders if this was a hit ordered by some secret elite circle. Suddenly, the scene shifts. The projection reveals the killer, a shadowy figure cloaked in a dark hood, radiating pure malice. The vision proves this wasn't just a random hit. The killer was taking orders from a shadow, even darker than themselves. Xiao Min wonders if Min Jun was living a double life, while the parasite asks if the hero is emotionally holding up. The entity points out he spent a century obsessed with his students, and now he's finally facing their graves. It finds it weird that he isn't crying, so Xiao Min jokes that he must have picked up too much tough guy energy from Netflix. But the parasite can feel his heart screaming and asks why he keeps such a heavy lid on his pain. Xiao Min just says his brain probably fried after 100 years of war. Right then, reality crashes back in. The door kicks open and a masked mercenary steps in, confirming Xiao Min's identity with a cold stare. The man brags about how hard it was to track him down and says a very important person want a word with him. Xiao Min just crosses his arms, mocking the guy for only bringing 6 bodyguards to a monster's den. The masked leader flinches, spooked by how easily the hero detected his hidden backup. The merc regains his cool and drops an ultimatum. The hunter has 2 paths to choose from. Option A, surrender quietly and be tied up. Option B, lose an arm, get beaten half to death, and then get dragged away. Xiao Min chooses to keep his arms, raising his hands in a fake gesture of surrender. Thinking they've won, the leader signals a goon to go in and cuff him. The lackey moves in, thinking it's an easy job. He walks right into the lion's mouth, reaching for Xiao Min's wrists. Wham! A black shadow strikes like a viper, and the goon's scream of agony echoes through the hallway. Xiao Min grins, telling them those arms are for breaking bones, while the parasite mocks the idiots for falling for the bait. The other thugs see red and charge in, screaming that Xiao Min is a dead man walking. Suddenly, a booming voice echoes through the center, commanding the fodder to stand down immediately. Gert enters the fray, draped in a crimson aura, claiming Xiao Min as his personal prize. The hero just smirks. He has to admit, the villain's dramatic entrance had a certain final boss flair to it. Gert glares at him, asking if he's the legendary ghost hunter from HMCS, then cuts to the chase. He demands to know if Xiao Min was the one who put his brother, Hicken, in the ground. The hero plays dumb. He quips that he never bothers to learn the names of the trash he sweeps out of his way. That response sends Gert into a blind, murderous rage. His patience is officially vaporized. He stomps the floor so hard the concrete shatters, howling that Xiao Min is a dead man. Then, he explodes forward, aiming to rip the hero's heart out with his bare hands. A massive shockwave rocks the room. The force of the impact is absolutely insane, enough to level a building. But Xiao Min blocks it with one hand, a smirk on his face, noting that Gert is at least A-rank material. Gert is baffled, wondering if he's fighting a combat class healer who can ignore damage. He unleashes a hurricane of blows, screaming for the scumbag to stay down and die. The pressure is intense. The henchmen are losing their minds. One shouts for everyone to dogpile the hero, but Xiao Min is already behind him. He warns the small fry to stay on the sidelines, unless they want to be deleted from the fight. He dances through the storm of attacks, dodging with the grace of a ghost. He tells them he won't let some extras ruin his first good workout. Gert is sweating now. He realizes the hero is reading his movements before he even makes them. The kid is a tactical genius. This scumbag is 10 times more dangerous and perceptive than the intel suggested. Gert prepares to go all out, but Xiao Min grabs one of his goons to give a quick lecture on reality. He crushes the guy's windpipe, reminding them that every crime has a price tag, and he's here to collect. Xiao Min admits he killed Hicken, but says the only ones who deserve pity are the people Hicken preyed on. Gert is disgusted, asking if the hero really thinks he's the judge, jury, and executioner for every criminal. He screams that Hicken was forced into crime just to keep them from starving his kids. His fist glows with a vengeful light. He swears to destroy the hero's life just like he destroyed his brother's. He unleashes his ultimate, Rain of 1,000 Arrows, a localized storm of pure, piercing mana. Xiaomin realizes he can't just sidestep this one, so he calls on Prida for a specific skill. The entity complains about the overtime. He triggers Neutralize, casting a massive hex circle that literally eats the magical arrows out of the air. Gert's jaw drops as his ultimate vanishes into thin air. He's never seen a dispel that powerful. The goons panic and try to rush him all at once, but Xiaomin is already standing shoulder to shoulder with Gert. He tells Gert to save the tragic backstory for someone who actually cares. With a flash of light, he buries a punch deep into the hunter's solar plexus. The impact launches Gert through a wall. His men scream in a panic as their invincible boss is sent flying. Gert staggers back up, bleeding but prideful, screaming for his men to back off. This is his fight. He bets that Xiaomin is out of mana and decides a close-quarters brawl is his only winning move. With a final battle cry, he leaps into a spinning energy strike, coming down hard on the hero. But Xiaomin just catches him mid-air with a brutal punch to the face, telling him to stop embarrassing himself. Then, he unleashes a relentless barrage of strikes, locking Gert down so hard he can't even trigger a single skill. Xiaomin actually has the nerve to grumble about the shabby building, mockingly asking if this criminal trash can afford the repair bill. Gert is sent flying backward from the sheer force of the impact, while Xiaomin styling on him with a perfect mid-air backflip. Desperate and reeling, Gert screams to his right-hand man, Ryo, "Don't just stand there. Get over here and help me." Ryo mutters a complaint about only being called when things go south, but he still fires off his binding chains to save his boss. Glowing red chains whip through the air, snaring Xiaomin and pinning his arms to his sides. Ryo erupts, howling that he's going to rip the hero into bloody pieces before his healing factor can even kick in. But Xiaomin just smirks, mockingly congratulating Ryo for following his brother's footsteps into a life of petty crime. With a flash of a golden magic circle, he triggers Life Steal, literally siphoning the vitality out of his target. Gert lets out a blood-curdling shriek. He watches in horror as his life force is drained, his body shriveling and aging decades in mere seconds. The henchman is losing his mind. He screams in disbelief, claiming no lowly healer should possess a terrifying power like that. Xiaomin then coldly clarifies that this was actually the very first skill he ever awakened, and he's never been an ordinary healer. He explains that his reach goes far beyond mere mending. He commands the absolute flow of life and death itself. With a grin that screams total dominance, he reveals his true class, a life mage. Xiaomin then slowly turns his icy gaze toward the last henchman standing, who immediately drops to his knees, begging for mercy. The hero doesn't say a word, simply silencing the guy's pleas with a single, bone-crunching knockout blow. Standing amidst the sea of defeated thugs, Xiaomin scans the alley, making sure every last one of them is dealt with. He suddenly remembers his equipment and fumbles with the camera on his belt, praying the thing actually recorded his heroics. He calls out to Zhang Heo, right into the lens, casually claiming that the criminals forced his hand and that the whole bloodbath was strictly self-defense. Cut to Zhang Heo's squad, who are currently choking on their lunch in absolute shock. The disaster? A frantic staffer delivers the nightmare news. He accidentally hit the live stream button instead of record. Over at the ministry, officials are in a frenzy, wondering why on earth the HMCS is suddenly broadcasting a massacre live. One man explains it was supposed to be a recruitment PR stunt cooked up by the agency's international branch. He admits the project was considered a total flop because they couldn't find anyone exciting enough for the camera. One official is stunned that a talent this massive is buried in the HMCS, but a woman cuts him off with a chilling realization. The guest star who just got obliterated on live TV was none other than Gert, the infamous powerhouse from Hong Kong. The doors fly open and the room goes silent as a heavy hitter enters with an apology. It's Choi Dae-soo, the president of South Korea himself. He strides in, demanding an immediate debrief on the chaos that just went viral. A few days later, the focus shifts to the Imperium Guild's bustling cafeteria, packed with elite hunters. Si Junmin leans in, asking his brother if he's noticed the massive stir he's caused, but Xiaomin is way more interested in his tray. Even the parasite tells him to ignore the haters and focus on the grub. He's actually impressed by the cafeteria food, asking if he can make this his daily lunch spot. Then, Si Junmin drops the bombshell. The video of him dismantling Gert has gone nuclear. racking up millions of views across the globe. He's relieved the camera was shaky enough to hide Xiaomin's face, but he's terrified the president will connect the dots. He begs his brother to just keep a low profile and stay out of the spotlight for a while. Xiaomin just nods, calmly snagging a piece of omelet with his chopsticks. He says he'll follow his brother's lead and even offers him a bite, catching Junmin totally off guard. Junmin is flustered, but Xiaomin reminds him that no matter how much time passes, he'll always be his little brother. Suddenly, a group of high-ranking hunters approaches their table to pay their respects to the guildmaster. Hunter Ji Soo-jin bows deeply, thanking Junmin because his guidance helped her awaken a prestigious A-rank skill. Junmin spots Hunter Sook in the crowd and asks if they're all heading to the mandatory rookie seminar. He introduces the big players, Minshu from White Lion, Yamato from Frozen Soul, and then Tae-ji Sook introduces himself, admitting he's been itching to meet the legendary Xiaomin. Sook mentions he's already heard whispers of the Mad Dog at HMCS. Xiaomin plays it cool, but Minshu cuts in, scoffing and asking if this scrawny guy is really the super rookie everyone's hyping up. He questions if Xiaomin really took down his rival, Gert, but he makes it clear he doesn't believe a word of it. With a nasty smirk, he points a finger, declaring that Xiaomin looks way too weak to be a threat. The room goes cold at the disrespect. Junmin's voice drops an octave as he calls the brat out by name. He makes it clear that coming into his house and insulting his guest is a line that shouldn't be crossed. Minshu tries to backpedal, claiming he was just asking questions, but Sook tells him to shut his trap. Junmin is genuinely fuming, threatening to report this behavior to Minshu's master, Choi Cnil. But Minshu doesn't flinch. He brags that he's the top disciple of Xiao Long, the feared leader of the Black Lotus. At the mention of that name, Xiaomin freezes, his eyes narrowing. He remembers his old student, Xiao Long, one of the very boys he forged into a warrior in the past. Minshu starts to ramp up his boasting, but Junmin claps his hands, effectively ending the dinner table drama. Xiaomin finally speaks, challenging the kid. If his master didn't teach him respect, he hopes he at least taught him how to throw a punch. Minshu loses his mind. Nobody mocks his master and gets away with it. In a blind rage, he kicks the table so hard the plates fly, sending everyone else scrambling. With a murderous glare, Minshu warns the brat to watch his back the moment the sun goes down. Sook is mortified, apologizing profusely for his teammate's ego, but Junmin tells him to save it. Junmin tells his brother to ignore the trash, but Xiaomin just smiles, noting that he's actually being on his best behavior. He thinks to himself that since the kid is technically his grand disciple, he'll give him a free pass, just this once. The scene shifts to a high-end office where a bureaucrat confirms the Gert case is officially closed. HMCS Director Gian Novak asks what a big fish like his visitor is doing here instead of just sending an email. It's Choi Cnil himself, the master of White Lion, who came to personally apologize for the cafeteria brawl. He's halfway through his speech about his members' immaturity when Novak cuts him off with a grin. The director says a formal apology isn't needed since no blood was spilled, but then he drops a sharp warning. He asks if Cnil is actually here to try and poach his star recruit. Novak brags that the rookie is too precious to lose and has already been deployed to escort a high-risk awakened criminal. Cnil is intrigued, noting it's rare for a federal prison to bypass the big guilds and call the HMCS for help. The director agrees, noting that usually these prime contracts go to the Big Seven. He looks at a file, sensing that the power balance in the hunter world is about to shift drastically. Cnil stands to leave, asking if he can at least send Minshu to apologize in person as a gesture of goodwill. The director bites, thinking it's a perfect chance to smooth things over between the agencies. Cnil exits with a polite smile, and the director wishes him a safe trip back home. But the White Lion Master is already plotting. He knows they're hiding a monster and vows to find him. Right then, he calls his assistant, Ms. CO, and tells her to gear up Minshu for an immediate field op. She asks for the coordinates, and he reveals the top secret location for the mission. Incheon City, home to the most high-security correctional center in the country. The scene cuts to a prison guard sweating in the heat, complaining that the HMCS escort is late. His partner tells him to relax, but the first guard is already fed up with a specific high-maintenance prisoner. He's livid because the guy refuses to follow rules and is making their lives a living hell. The inmate is Seri Bolke. He looked harmless when he arrived, then suddenly snapped and hospitalized 5 guards at once. Inside a dark cell, Sari Bolke stares at his heavy-duty cuffs, lost in thought. Suddenly, a rat scurries up to him, speaking with a human voice. It's a message from the Beast Organization. His breakout is already set. They tell him there's a special task waiting for him on the outside. Without a word, Sari just raises his boot and crushes the talking rat into the concrete floor. The voice echoes one last time, telling him his only job is to unleash absolute, unmitigated chaos. Outside the prison walls, Xiaomin stands in the drizzling rain, taking in the grim atmosphere of the place. He confirms his target, the Incheon Correctional Center. Meanwhile, a fuming Min Chu pulls up to the gates. He's screaming because he just missed the prisoner transport. He starts ranting about the incompetent guards and wondering why the hell he was sent on this boring errand. He spots the transport bus pulling away in the distance and checks with the guard, who confirms that's the one. He peels out in his car, cursing the fact that he has to drive to another province just to catch up. He floors it, swearing that the guild master better pay him triple overtime for this headache. Back on a moving bus, we see our hero, Xiaomin, casually sipping a drink while staring down the high-risk prisoner. He calls out to him. Sari Bolke barks at him to drink his juice in silence, but Xiaomin just gives a flat no. Sari scoffs, calling him an insolent brat, and asking if he's really the only one guarding him at the next stop. With a face of pure boredom, Xiaomin just says no again, taking another sip of his drink. The prisoner smirks, convinced this rookie kid has absolutely no idea what kind of monster he's trapped with. Xiaomin just wears a look of utter indifference, basically asking if knowing this guy's name is even worth the brain cells. Sari is floored, letting out a stunned wow at the kid's suicidal audacity and complete lack of survival instinct. He's genuinely baffled. How could Xiaomin stroll into this mission without a clue who he's guarding or why this transfer is so high stakes? Xiaomin deadpans that the only thing he's learned so far is that the guy is a world-class yapper. Sari loses his cool and starts flexing. He boasts that he single-handedly dismantled 5 awakened powerhouses before catching this ride. He keeps going, claiming he pulled that off while nerfed by heavy-duty mana restraints. But Xiaomin just has one question. Why would the brass send a rookie to solo escort such a dangerous beast? He drains his cup and drops the cold, hard truth. The agency didn't send him to guard a prisoner. They sent him here as a sacrificial lamb to be erased. Right then, a massive explosion rips through the highway, turning the bus into a roaring fireball. The shockwave sends the vehicle spiraling off the asphalt, flipping like a toy before slamming into the dirt below. A mysterious youth watches the wreckage, asking his master if that blast finally turned the target into charcoal. Suddenly, Sari kicks through the twisted metal of the bus, howling at the old bastard who dared to trap him in there. He crawls out of the debris in a blood-red rage, demanding to know if these newcomers were trying to blow him up too. The old man sneers, calling the gray wolf a mere stray puppy, and Sari roars at him to shut his trap. The youth confirms he dealt with the guard, joking that the poor guy's brain is probably a cocktail of caffeine and internal bleeding. The camera pans to Xiaomin's hand, lying dead still on the grass next to his crushed, empty cup. The boy starts picking the lock on the handcuffs, warning Sari to stay put since these are high-tech Manatech shackles. With a sharp click, the cuffs shatter, finally unleashing the beast from his magical cage. Sari basks in his newfound freedom, but the moment is ruined by a shout ordering the criminals to freeze, and Min Chul has entered the chat and is taking in the absolute carnage of the crash site. He realizes the transport bus was diverted onto the most suspicious death trap route imaginable. And Min Chul scoffs at the dead rookie, muttering that Choi CNIL really backed the wrong horse this time. He cracks his knuckles with malicious intent, demanding to know which shadow organization these freaks represent. The youth instantly recognizes that face. It's the A-rank heavyweight, and Min Chul from the legendary White Lion Guild. The master notes there are no other witnesses nearby, making this the perfect live-fire training session, and Min Chul steps forward, fuming, but Sari just glares back, asking why he should give a damn about answering a dead man's questions. Sari triggers his hidden trump card, morphing into a massive, terrifyingly feral white werewolf, and Min Chul is momentarily stunned by the transformation, but brushes it off, saying he'll beat the man and the beast out of him all the same. He ignites his relentless assault skill, coating himself in a thick layer of glowing red mana armor, fully buffed. He lunges at the werewolf, unleashing a hurricane of brutal, bone-shattering strikes. The werewolf tanks the hits, realizing he'd be in deep trouble if this were a fair 1v1. But Min-chul is getting frustrated. Because even though his punches are landing with full force and drawing blood, the enemy won't go down. Despite the beating, the monster remains upright, soaking up every ounce of damage like a sponge. He even has the nerve to mock him, asking if this is a welcome home massage. The old man realizes. They're burning daylight and barks at the youth to finish this circus act immediately. The boy snaps to it. He weaves pink energy into the 10-headed serpent to bind in Min-chul. The hunter just laughs it off, mocking the toy snake as it tries to coil around him. But the serpent is faster than it looks. It wraps tightly around the hunter's limbs, and his smug look vanishes as the constriction sets in. With the hunter pinned, the werewolf delivers a devastating haymaker, sighing that he expected a real fight. He screams that in the trenches. Spoiled corporate hunters like him are just appetizers for the worms, but in Min-chul spits back that it's pretty pathetic to talk big when he needed a 2-on-1 sneak attack to stand a chance. Sari boots him in the ribs, claiming that's just strategic genius and that the hunter should have brought his own backup. The old man snaps that they're out of time and orders Bolke to execute the hunter and move out. The werewolf charges up a lethal energy blast, mockingly asking for any last words. But Min-chul isn't the type to beg. He grits his teeth in a final, bitter realization that he's about to get snuffed out without a fight. Suddenly, a blinding golden eruption shatters the ground beneath them. The shockwave sends everyone flying like rag dolls in a hurricane. The beast youth howls in pain as the very earth groans under the weight of that massive power. Xiaomin emerges from the smoke, asking if Xiaolong really taught his students to fold this easily, and Min-chul is absolutely shell-shocked, wondering how the hell the kid survived a point-blank bus explosion. Xiaomin fumbles with his camera, and Predator tells him to quit whining. If he can't see the lens, he might as well be blind. Sari can't process how the corpse is standing, while the old man realizes this rookie has a monstrous aura, and Min-chul desperately screams at him to stay down and wait for the real pros. But Xiaomin starts reading out their list of sins, acting as judge and jury under the banner of the HMCs, with a golden glow and a terrifyingly sharp smile. He declares the verdict: summary execution. No épées, no merci, Xiumin. Coldly informs the trio that their lives are officially forfeit by his decree. And the sentence is death on the spot. The scene shifts, as we flash back to a master telling Xiaolong's apprentice that the Azure style isn't just about swinging wild. Then back to the present. Xiaomin joins his hands, igniting a red magic circle that burns with an intense, lethal light. The werewolf charges in a frenzy, screaming for blood, but Xiaomin is already locked and loaded. He connects a devastating blow, shattering the beast's jaw with a sickening crack. Right then, he explains the secret behind the move. It's a skill designed to impale the soul. A red flash pierces straight through the monster. The apprentice is paralyzed with fear, screaming that it's Master Xiaolong's secret ultimate technique. The monster is blown back, and Xiaomin casually remarks that he needs to drain the blood to make the meat more tender. Suddenly, the old man counterattacks with a lightning strike, chanting the Maharaga name, but the hero dodges it like he's walking in a park. The old man stares in disbelief, unable to comprehend how a human could move that fast. Xiaomin is intrigued by the old man's weird energy, and Prida immediately asks if this old geezer is on the menu. He realizes the man is just using high-grade magic scrolls, and Prida grumbles that it's just tasteless frozen food. Losing his mind, the apprentice screams at Xiaomin, demanding to know how a nobody is using his master's secret arts. Done with the questions, Xiaomin lunges and grabs the kid by the face, making him shriek in agony. Meanwhile, the old man steps up with a sinister aura, warning the rookie not to move another inch. The elder threatens to crush the boy's soul into the dirt with a gravity field, trying to force a stalemate, but Xiaomin just gives a dry chuckle, asking if this little trick is supposed to actually scare him. The old man tries to pivot, proposing a trade, the hostage's life for their safe exit. He tries to sound reasonable, claiming it's a win-win if they both just walk away and forget this happened. Xiaomin digs into his ear, calling the whole deal garbage because he's already eyeing the rewards for this mission. He nonchalantly tells the apprentice to just escape on his own, but the boy cries out that he's pinned by the gravity. The old man is baffled, asking if Xiaomin doesn't care about his comrade, but the hero just denies they were ever on the same side. Hearing that, the elder's eyes bug out as the terrifying reality sets in. Xiaomin starts walking slowly toward him, asking which bottom-tier assassin guild he crawled out of. The man tenses up, sweat dripping as he asks who Xiaomin really is while desperately charging his last attack. With a gaze as cold as the abyss, Xiaomin warns him not to make him ask about his organization a third time. Driven to the edge, the elder unleashes a torrent of electricity, screaming for him to stay back, but Xiaomin doesn't even flinch, charging up a massive blue energy shockwave of his own. His counterattack is so overwhelming it literally swallows the lightning whole, leaving the old man utterly broken. Pride chirps that the flavor is finally improving, and Xiaomin notes that he's successfully topped off 40% of his mana reserves. Xiaomin mocks the old man, telling him to just give up and enjoy his final moments. But the man howls that their loyalty to the organization is absolute. No betrayal. Just then, the apprentice admits they're under a mana-bound pact of silence. Suddenly, the werewolf Bolke drags himself back, looking like he's been through a meat grinder, and the old man curses him for being such a useless shield. Xiaomin lets out a dark laugh, asking if it's all they've got, or if they're just scared of the Reaper, cloaked in a toxic green aura. He tells them to relax. Death is a lot easier to handle after the first couple of times you go through it. The elder screams at Bolke to do something, but the beast snaps and tells the old geezer to shut his damn mouth. Blinded by fury, the werewolf vows to tear Xiaomin apart even if it kills him, but the apprentice jumps in to block the path, declaring that nobody is getting past him today, with a sharp, confident smile. He remarks that the odds are finally starting to look a bit more interesting. The boy screams that the monster should have stayed in the dirt, but the beast growls back that the nightmare is just beginning. Shadows dance across Xiaomin's face as he whispers the name of his true technique, Boreal Blizzard. A massive, soul-chilling ice storm erupts, sweeping the beast and the assassins away like dry leaves. He closes his hand around the old man's throat and asks in a bone-chilling whisper, "Well, how's it feel?" Then he delivers the punchline. It's the exquisite sensation of your soul being snuffed out, piece by piece. The old man's screams are cut short as the ruthless protagonist begins to crush the life out of his windpipe. With the eyes of a demon, Xiaomin asks how many times he needs to die before the truth finally slips out. The apprentice is losing his mind, terrified of the absolute monster standing right in front of him. Xiaomin snaps the boy's arm like a dry twig, cold as ice, noting that apparently one death just wasn't enough of a lesson. The horrific realization sinks in. This guy is healing them just so he can torture them in an endless, agonizing loop. He moves on to the third round, asking one more time, "Who do you run with?" The apprentice breaks, begging the old man to talk. The elder finally gasps the name Beast with a twisted, defeated smile. Xiaomin smirks. He finally has the name of the shadow organization he's been hunting. Meanwhile, the old man has a sudden, soul-shaking epiphany about why those skills felt so familiar. He howls in realization, You're the Mad Dog, the legendary Supreme Master who vanished into thin air years ago." With the intel in hand, Xiaomin crouches over the broken body and warns him that he's done playing games. He conjures a swirling sphere of mana, asking the apprentice if he recognizes the rat he's looking for. It turns out the beast is an elite guild of killers, specialized in hunting down and executing high-rank hunters. They're the absolute kings of the underworld, famous for their surgical precision and a 0% failure rate. The old man admits that as a first-gen hunter, he didn't have the guts to say no to an offer from them. He whispers about the Pact of Silence, the ironclad tradition that keeps their bloody secrets buried. It's the ultimate underworld law, loyalty until the grave, with no exceptions for those who want to live. For 15 years, he bled for the beast, convinced he'd take their secrets to hell with him. But being murdered and resurrected over and over by Xiaomin finally shattered his iron will. The apprentice coughs up a code name, Black Mamba. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces start falling into place. To make it even juicier, he confirms that this Mamba is a high-ranking member of their secret society. Xiaomin scoffs at the edgy name, asking if this is really the coward hiding behind the organization's shadow. He drops the hammer with his next question. "Did your people murder Hunter John Minjun?" His aura turns heavy enough to crush bone. He demands the truth, making the apprentice writhe on the dirt in pure, unadulterated agony. The kid feels a murderous intent so thick it's suffocating, wondering what kind of god-tier monster he's offended. The old man explains they operate on a need-to-know basis. Their only job was to bust the wolf out of the cage. He adds that the beast expects them at the Grand Biennial Summit happening in just 1 week. Desperate to stop the pain, the assassin offers up the secret coordinates, literally begging for a quick end. The old man prostrates himself, pleading for the master to take them both on as his new hunting dogs. Xiaolong's apprentice is absolutely disgusted, screaming no freaking way at the top of his lungs. He begs Xiaomin to reject the trash, but the hero finds it hilarious that the kid is suddenly calling him Big Brother. The boy argues that since Xiaomin uses the Azura style, they're practically family. The bond of the blade is real. The kid begs to be his disciple, but Xiaomin's patience is gone. He barks at him to shut up. He gets pensive. He needs that black mamba intel, but he knows if he lets these two walk free, the beast will smell a rat, and his whole revenge plot will go up in smoke. Suddenly, he smirks and says the deal is on, leaving the apprentice jaw-dropped while the old man weeps with joy. But Xiaomin's mercy comes with a lethal catch. He looks them dead in the eye. To ensure they don't get cold feet, they have to sign the manhwa oath, a soul-binding contract. Bolke grumbles that it's basically a slave collar, but the old man snaps at him to pipe down if he wants to keep his head. With the Reaper watching, they step into a magic circle that blazes to life on the forest floor. Meanwhile, Xiaomin manifests a mana disc, ordering them to pour their essence into it and speak their true names. The elder introduces himself as the Crimson Spectre, and the werewolf claims the name Seri Bolke, sealing the bond. Prida is doing a happy dance now that they have food servants, while Xiaomin officially marks them as his property. He promises them his protection in exchange for their lives, as the contract burns into a glowing scroll. Forced into a corner, the two new subordinates bow before their god-tier master. But the apprentice, Xiaolong's boy, throws a total tantrum, threatening to narc on Xiaomin to the Hunter Association. With a look that could freeze hell, Xiaomin whispers, "What was that?" And the kid's heart nearly stops from the pressure. He grabs the scroll, noting that the beast's little reunion is just 7 days away. Then Xiaomin turns to the trembling boy and offers to make him his new direct disciple. The kid's mood flips instantly. He's already shouting master. With stars in his eyes, Xiaomin just smirks. With his new suicide squad ready, he's confident 4 people are enough to wreck the underworld, but then he grins. He realizes he's going to need 1 more person to help clean up the massive pile of bodies he's about to make. Cut to the prison, where a guard is screaming into his radio that the high-value target vanished during the transport. A high-ranking official is losing his mind, asking if the HMCS's elite security was just a bunch of fancy talk. The guard stammers that Xiaomin was a literal blur. The guy moved faster than a human I could track. The director doesn't want excuses. He demands the HMCS rookie crawl here to apologize personally. But the guard drops the bombshell that there were nearly a dozen guards in that convoy, leaving the director speechless. The fact that they only assigned 1 rookie to this mission is beyond fishy. The director stands up, fuming. But before he can explode, the hunter drops a piece of intel that stops him cold. It turns out the prisoner confessed to greasing the palms of someone very high up in the prison's own food chain. He warns that the HMCS is about to tear the prison apart in a full-scale corruption probe. With a gaze of steel, he demands the director's cooperation. The official caves instantly. Cut to a man, wearing a fake smile, looking like he's aged 20 years from the sheer stress of the situation. Elsewhere, Xiaomin gets word that the internal investigation is already burning through the corrupt facility. Suddenly, an Minchul from the White Lion Guild bursts in, surprising everyone in the safe house. He stares at the mysterious old man sitting in the corner, casually sipping tea like he owns the place. He points at the hooded figure of Bolke, who is sweating buckets under his cloak. But Xiaomin gives Zhang Hio a sharp smack to the head and tells him to park it. This is going to be a long story. With the gang all here, he sits them down to lay out the blueprints for the upcoming massacre. He explains they're crashing the Beast's summit, where 8 of the world's deadliest killers will be waiting. Zhang Hio is vibrating with fear, asking what the hell they hope to achieve by charging into a lion's den with a 4-man team. With a wicked, predatory grin, Xiaomin says the mission parameters are simple. He wants total annihilation. He's not going there to negotiate. He's going there to erase them from existence. At the Beast's secret hideout, one member scoffs at how many of the family actually showed up today. A girl whines that Spectre and Bolke are MIA, but another member says traitors don't get a seat at the table. A blue-haired punk pipes up, saying he'd love to be the one to gut those two runaways himself. Another girl pouts, crying about Bolke standing her up for a date at the amusement park. A total drama queen. Fed up with the noise, a member with a face full of scars barks at everyone to shut their traps. He warns that the boss will decide the fate of the deserters, as a shadow watches them from the balcony. The leader admits he loves the chaos, but is genuinely shocked that 3 of his best are suddenly missing. He asks if anyone has a lead on the traitors, but the room goes dead silent. With his hands steepled, he weighs his options for fixing this mess, then casually suggests a death match to spice things up. The winner gets the honor of hunting down and slaughtering the traitors. A heavy, soul-crushing silence drops over the room, sending a shiver down every assassin's spine. One member stares at the boss, telling him his jokes aren't hitting the mark today. Another guy points out the real nightmare. Those traitors know the where and when of their entire operation. One assassin laughs off the threat, doubting those weaklings would ever dare to return. Then the alarm blares. The perimeter is breached. Intruder alert. The entire room shifts in a high-gear kill mode. The Beast's leader just blinks, not quite believing someone was actually suicidal enough to kick in his front door. A member calls out the guests and orders everyone to take one of the 5 defensive routes to clear them out. The group scatters, but one notices that the heavy hitters, Porcupine and Black Mamba, aren't moving. Porcupine sneers that hunting ants is a waste of his time. He'd rather stay and beat his high score on a video game. The leader sighs, regretting he didn't tell his men to keep the heads intact for a proper ID later. Cut to Jong Hyo, who's cursing his luck for winning the suicide mission lottery. 30 minutes ago, the team arrived at the hidden fortress. Spectre explains the base has 5 sensor-rigged tunnels and a labyrinthine interior that's constantly shifting. He promises every path hits the main hall eventually, though some are much deadlier than others. Xiaomin decides they'll split up and take every entrance at once, surrounding the targets like a cage. He asks Jong Hyo if the comms are live, and the boy holds up the walkie-talkie, ready for the signal. Xiaomin drops a final warning. Stay sharp. If they run into a heavyweight, don't play hero. Call him immediately. He stresses that they need to be twice as cautious from here on out. This goes double if they cross paths with Black Mamba, the slithering target at the top of their hit list. Back to the action. Jong Hyo is sweating bullets, thinking everything was going smoothly until the mission took a sharp turn into hell. He narrates his struggle, explaining he hit a dead end and had to resort to crawling through the dusty ventilation shafts like a spy. He's stunned to find the duct opens right into the heart of the main hall, and even crazier, there's zero security in sight. Then the anxiety kicks in. He knows his teammates are fighting for their lives at every other entrance, and regrouping will take forever. With the clock ticking, he decides to fend the herd himself while he has the element of surprise. Seizing the moment, a tiny marble suddenly clatters across the floor, making a strangely echoing, clicking sound. One of the deadly beauties of the beast spots the shiny bead and crouches down, playfully asking Porcupine if he's into slot machines now. She chirps about her jackpot win yesterday as she reaches out for the toy, completely unaware of the danger. Boom! The marble erupts in a violent blast, tossing the assassin through the air as a massive dust cloud swallows the room. One thug mutters she's toast, while Porcupine growls a warning. They've got a rat in the rafters. Jong Hyo doesn't stop there. He hurls another grenade straight into the chaos. But Porcupine is a beast. He catches the live explosive midair and scoffs at the weak ambush. It detonates right in his palm, but the villain emerges unscathed, mocking the hunter. Why not come out and face me like a man instead of throwing rocks? The secondary shockwave is so brutal it rattles the vents, sending Jong Hyo crashing down onto the floor. Without giving the kid a chance to even gasp for air, the villain lunges, instantly pinning him as an HMCS hunter. Jong Hyo skids across the floor from the impact, teeth grit in frustration as he tries to scramble back to his feet. He realizes with a sinking heart that after all that flair, he only managed to scratch one minor assassin. He's analyzing the field, wondering how that female leader is still standing without even flaring her mana. Porcupine barks, asking if the traitors leaked their coordinates. Jong Hyo spits back a defiant, "So what if they did?" confirming the betrayal and making the villain realize the specter has flipped. The villain laughs a cold, hollow laugh, mocking the runaways for throwing their lives away. He sneers at the idea of them allying with second-rate trash like this HMCS squad. Fed up, one of the hunters lunges at him, but Porcupine shuts it down instantly with his razor-sharp claws. He rains down bone daggers with lethal speed. Meanwhile, the mysterious queen of the beast watches the slaughter. She notes with a bored expression that the hunter's skills are actually halfway decent. Meanwhile, Porcupine figures out the kid's gimmick, telekinesis. A flashy power, but not enough to save him. Jong Hyo curses under his breath. The monster's skin is like iron, and he's burning mana to heal at an insane rate. But the villain declares the playtime over and charges in with the force of a freight train. With a single, thunderous blow, he sends the hunter flying through a stone wall, turning everything in his path to rubble. He looks to his leader for the green light to finish the job, and she gives him a cold nod. Jong Hyo is broken and bleeding, but he desperately fumbles for his radio, trying to gasp out that the target is in the main hall. Crack! The villain boots him in the face, silencing the call for backup before he can utter another word. Face down in the dirt, he hears Porcupine mock him. Help isn't coming. The villain wonders who's next. The director? The Spectre? Or maybe the whole Suicide Squad decided to crash the party together. Porcupine settles into a combat stance, ready to take on the invaders who just stormed the hall. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the room. The villain's jaw drops. He didn't expect the rest of the team to breach their defenses this fast. He's genuinely shook to see his fellow beast assassins getting folded like laundry with such embarrassing ease. The leader sighs, disappointed that her elite guards fell like common flies. But Porcupine senses something fishy. He notices their wounds aren't clean. It looks like they fought a desperate, bloody struggle to get here. The hero team holds their ground, looking battered and bruised, proving the trip through the tunnels was no walk in the park. You find it hard to believe they managed to put down powerhouses like Tiger and Grizzly in record time. He stomps the floor, shattering the stone to intimidate them, but he's met with cold stares. And Min Chul is done with the monologues, barking at the bastard to shut his mouth and fight. Bathed in a crimson battle aura, he lunges forward with a strike fueled by pure, unadulterated rage. Porcupine catches the blow, recognizing the signature style of the White Lion Guild. He skids back, asking why a big-shot guild member is playing dress-up with the HMCS. In his retreat, he bumps into a figure and mutters a half-hearted apology on the ground. Spectre is coughing up dust, muttering that this entire mission has spiraled into complete nonsense. The villain scoffs at their teamwork, noting their stats are all over the place, and they have zero chemistry. Porcupine demands to know who the real boss is, the one who managed to wrangle this circus together. Then, the smoke clears to reveal Shio Min holding an assassin by the hair like a trophy, exuding pure dominance. And Min Chul is left scratching his head, wondering how the hell Shio Min got there so fast. We get a quick flashback. The master appeared in the middle of his fight, ended it in a blink, and told him to sprint to the center. He realizes the same thing happened to Bolke and the old man. Now the goal is simple: bag the target. Bolke grunts that taking an S-Class alive is a suicide mission, especially when it's that snake freak. Spectre agrees, warning about Black Mamba, a shape-shifting nightmare with ungodly speed and power. He suspects they've walked into a setup or that the real leader, Raven, is just sitting back in the shadows, enjoying the show. He slams his staff down, igniting a tracking rune to find the hidden boss, then yells at Bolke to quit whining and focus on capturing the snake. The werewolf just grumbles about the overtime work, and Min Chul dives in, but Porcupine is too fast, pinning him to the dirt with a crushing stomp. But wait, Spectre traps the villain in a mana web, telling him he isn't going anywhere until the master says so. He triggers his Binding Zone Ultimate, snaring every remaining enemy in glowing chains of light. And Min Chul tries to hack his way out, but these chains are built different. They won't even scratch. Even Raven gets caught in a magical snare. Spectre warns her that no matter how legendary she thinks she is, nobody escapes his binding zone once it's locked in. She just smiles, calling her old comrade a talented braggart, but she doesn't let him forget he's a traitor to the core. Suddenly, Black Mamba rips the unbreakable chains apart like wet paper, shocking the elder with his raw, absurd strength. He lunges at the specter with zero hesitation and 100 kill intent. In that split second, the female assassin who was supposed to be down and out pops back up, leaving Jong Hyo totally flabbergasted. Porcupine tells them to quit playing around and shatters his own restraints with a roar. He commands the squad to prep for reinforcements and scrub their tracks before the authorities swarm the place. Activating his draconian trait, he shifts into a terrifying lizard man and orders everyone to drop dead. Jong Hyo panics, and Min Chul's ribs are toast, and their normal gear won't even dent this monster. With no cards left to play, he screams for everyone to run for their lives. And Min Chul feels the monster's mana skyrocketing. It's like the guy has turned the entire room into his own personal hunting ground. He realizes he has to play the tank and buy time, even though he knows he can't win this brawl. To make it worse, Bolke is busy in a catfight with the female assassin and can't bail him out. Every breath feels like he's carrying a mountain. He admits this fight is going to be a nightmare. He manages to land a lucky knife strike, but the monster just leaks green gas and barely seems to notice. Jong Hyo watches in horror as the snake uses elemental corrosion magic, filling the room with a storm of acidic blades. The villain spins like a tornado, shredding the floor and hurling jagged stone shards at the hunters. And Min Chul screams a warning to Jong Hyo. A boulder the size of a car is about to crush him flat. The monster sneers at Min Chul, telling him that turning your back in a fight is a one-way ticket to the morgue. With a brutal, precise strike, the beast hammers the hunter into the floor, creating a massive crater. He turns to Jong Hyo and says there's a cold truth that official government hunters never seem to grasp. The monster lifts him by the throat, asking if he really thought their hideout wouldn't be rigged with lethal defenses. Across the room, the assassin is raining blows on Bolke, screaming for the traitor Mutt to die. Turns out the entire floor is a massive magic trap designed for self-destruction and tracking. The villain declares their fate was sealed the moment they stepped into the serpent's den. Losing his patience, he orders the hunter to quit twitching and embrace the silence of death. But suddenly, the monster's survival instincts go haywire, screaming of an incoming threat. He leaps back just in time as a jagged pillar of ice erupts from the ground where he stood. Xiaomin has arrived. He charges the monster like a bolt of lightning, leaving Jong Hyo in awe. He lands a bone-shattering strike on the villain, making it crystal clear who the real alpha is. With a dark, wicked grin, he tells the crawling trash that he finally found his target. Suddenly, Yedwal lunges with her blade, screaming to know who this intruder is, but she walks right into a lightning trap, hitting the floor in a heap, paralyzed and defeated. Witnessing the absolute carnage, the leader of the beast is floored because Xiaomin just effortlessly nuked every spell in the hall. Xiaomin gathers his energy while Prida talks smack, mocking their top-tier magic as if it were a child's toy. Even the big boss is impressed. Xiaomin just neutralized millions of dollars worth of magic traps without breaking a sweat. Suddenly, Porcupine recovers, admitting that loud entrance actually rattled him. He locks eyes directly onto Xiaomin, muttering that the puzzle pieces are finally starting to click into place. He points a finger, accusing him of being the shadowy mastermind who's been systematically folding his elite assassins. Xiaomin scoffs, telling the guy it takes some serious guts for a low-life hitman to talk to him like that. The leader turns to Black Mamba, asking if he picked a fight with the wrong guy, but he denies it. Still, the beast connects the dots instantly. This is a cold-blooded revenge mission. Xiaomin admits he's impressed they tracked him, considering he usually leaves zero traces behind. He confirms it's personal, but warns the monster he needs a straight answer to one question before things get ugly. With a sudden burst of god-tier power, he sends Porcupine flying across the room like a rag doll. The beast leader steps up, her eyes narrowing as she begins to realize the legend she's actually facing. Even face down on the floor, Yegwa barks at her boss to shut up because the Supreme Master is about to speak. The leader just laughs, saying she knows better than to interrupt, mocking the blind loyalty coming from the dirt. Another assassin watches the brawl in pure horror, wondering what kind of nightmare monster Xiaomin really is. Porcupine is reeling. He never expected someone to hijack his own signature magic and use it against him. He's losing his mind over how Xiaomin found their lair, let alone how he moves with that insane speed and magical precision. With a bone-crunching strike, Xiaomin hurls Porcupine against the wall with the force of a wrecking ball. The hitman spits a mouthful of blood onto the floor, admitting he's never met a freak of nature like this before. He brags about knowing every elite hunter on the planet, yet has no clue who Xiaomin is. He flares his dark energy, screaming, demanding to know what the hell Xiaomin actually wants from him. Xiaomin casually leaps onto his back, pinning him down and noting that the guy is still way too slow to understand the situation. He grinds the assassin's face into the concrete, reminding him that he's the one holding the mic here. With a heavy stomp, he warns the guy to play dead so he doesn't accidentally end his life ahead of schedule. Gasping for air, the assassin begs for mercy. Xiaomin grabs him by the hair and demands to know who the VIP pulling the strings is. With a look of pure fury, he barks, wanting the name of the scoundrel who put the hit on Min Jun. The assassin's blood runs cold at the mention of that name. He flashes back to the face of Min Jun, the brilliant young historian. He lets out a shaky, nervous laugh, realizing Xiaomin must be out for blood on behalf of that kid. Xiaomin gives him an ultimatum: talk now, or find out if your contract loyalty is worth your life. In a final act of suicidal bravado, the assassin chokes out that loyalty is everything. He reveals a glowing magic seal on his tongue, mocking Xiaomin that even if he talked, the truth would melt the hero's ears. And then, in a final insult, he spits right at him. The assassin wears a ghoulish grin, declaring that a true professional never rolls on their client. Xiaomin hits the roof, wiping his face and roaring that this trash actually had the nerve to spit on him. He growls that if the guy won't talk, he'll rip the info out, unleashing a blinding golden aura. Seeing that, the assassin is stunned. He's realizing Xiaomin might be the most dangerous healer in existence. Total panic sets in as he screams for his leader, but she's already boxed in by her own problems. Broken and terrified, the assassin finally caves, gasping out the name of the client. But before he can speak, his head literally pops. Xiaomin stands there in shock as the word pandemonium echoes through the hall like a ghost. The beast leader wears a wicked told you so smirk with a single move. She triggers a massive shockwave, clearing the area. She looks at Xiaomin with a sharp, knowing smile, declaring she's finally figured out his secret identity. She calls him out as Xiaomin, the mad dog legend who vanished in a thin air 10 years ago. Xiaomin demands to know if she's a pandemonium lackey too, but she just laughs it off. She explains they are free agents who don't bow to one master, deducing his name from his raw, overwhelming power, and his reaction to that forbidden name. He doesn't back down, asking if she knows anything else and warning her he'll sniff out a lie. She swears she's clean and says she's betting he's already realized she's telling the truth. She wonders how the world could have forgotten a monster like him. With a snap of her fingers, she revives her fallen squad. Suddenly, a massive blast rocks the sky, a self-destruction trap designed to cover their tracks. Floating mid-air with Yegua, she asks if the mad dog wants to join their little circus. Xiaomin turns her down, saying he's already got the lead he came for. Seeing his cold refusal, the leader just smiles, respecting the hustle. She bids him a playful see you later before vanishing into a swirling magic portal. Zhang Hio starts to panic, but Xiaomin calmly explains she was just cleaning house with self-destruct magic. He then dumps the cleanup duty on Zhang Hio, since their extracurricular mission is officially over. Walking over the debris, Xiaomin is haunted by the name Pandemonium. He stands there, wondering what kind of forbidden secrets Min Jun stumbled upon in that room. Back at the base, Xiaomin hits the computer, that name Pandemonium ringing in his head like a death knell. Flashback. When the first portals tore open 20 years ago, it wasn't just monsters and loot that spilled out. Mana flooded the world, the fuel for all the crazy skills hunters use today. And then came the demons, invaders from another dimension who were masters of mana and killing. They exploited the Earth's collapse, turning the world into a blood-soaked playground. They played overseer, seizing the portals and treating humanity like disposable garbage. In the dark, some humans actually knelt to them, forming Pandemonium, a twisted cult dedicated to their demon overlords. But the first-gen hunters finally learned to fight back, ending the demon's reign of terror. Humanity won the war and finally got a taste of peace again. Xiaomin remembers that Pandemonium was supposed to be dead and buried before he even offed the demon lord. That was a decade ago. He's left wondering why this dead cult is suddenly popping up again. He closes his eyes and summons Prida, needing to clear up some ancient history. Xiaomin asks if he remembers the old-school demons, and Prida says they were a different breed of evil. Prida explains they were cosmic slavers who even put dragons in chains, muttering that they stole his rightful power. Prida continues his rant, saying based on what he's seen, it's a safe bet these demons are busy infecting other worlds just like they did Earth. Xiaomin scratches his head, frustrated. Back then, he only cared about killing them, not their backstories. The only thing he knows for sure is their mana signature is off, and they've gotten much better at wearing human skins. Prida screams at him to just murder everything and sort out later, but Xiaomin knows this is a chess game, not a brawl. The door swings open and his brother, Si Junmin, walks in, immediately asking what the hell Xiaomin is doing in his private office. Xiaomin plays it cool, saying he's just looking into Min Jun, but Si Jun is already 10 steps ahead. He asks about the secret team and why he's dodging the association. Worried sick, Si Jun warns that if President Day Su catches wind of this, it's game over. But Xiaomin doesn't give a damn. He says Zhang Heo is his fall guy, and that day Su doesn't scare him. He even reveals he's planning to pay a visit to the president, making Si Junmin's heart skip a beat. Si Jun is horrified by the death wish, but Xiaomin explains he's done with the games. He wants real answers. His brother sighs, reminding him he's not even at 100 mana yet, begging him not to do anything suicidal. Xiaomin stands up while Si Jun rants about how much the world has changed and how he can't lose him again. To kill the tension, Xiaomin grabs his brother and ruffles his hair like they're kids, telling him to chill out. Si Jun gets huffy, telling him to at least keep his promise to train the new recruit. He brings up Ji Su Jin, noting that her specific skill is a total nightmare to master. Xiaomin digs in his ear, reluctantly agreeing to give her a few pointers. Right on cue, his stomach growls like a monster, and he drags his brother out for food, leaving Si Jun stunned by his appetite. Suddenly the phone rings while Prida starts screaming for a mountain of fried chicken. On the other end, Zhang Heo is losing it, screaming about why his name was scrubbed from the official report. Xiaomin is already bored of the lecture, but Zhang Heo drops a bomb. Their little raid just leaked to the media. The headlines are blowing up. The HMCS just soloed a legendary assassin guild. The agency is in total meltdown, with PR teams trying to fend off a swarm of reporters. Zhang Heo panics because Director Novak is now breathing down his neck since Xiaomin's name is nowhere to be found. He's having a meltdown because he has no idea how he's going to explain that a rookie like him supposedly took down everyone alone. Xiaomin casually suggests hit up and Min Chul for backup, but the dude on the other end of the line is already having a total mental breakdown. He pathetically begs Xiaomin for a lifeline, but our cold-blooded protagonist just hangs up mid-sentence. He simply declares that his dinner takes priority over some life-or-death crisis. Xiaomin walks off grumbling, wondering why he can't get even 60 seconds of peace after saving the day. He collapses onto the sofa and tells his brother that Zhang Heo is probably over the moon with their recent success. Shifting gears, Xiaomin makes himself comfortable on the couch, his eyes sharpening as he seeks real answers. He asks his brother if the demons are still the same scum from a decade ago. Si Jun says no, explaining they begged for a truce the second they were crushed. Since their surrender, they've retreated to Antarctica to set up some mana research station, he continues, claiming they've been on their best behavior, barely even showing their faces in the real world anymore. Because they've gone ghost, most of the younger generation thinks demons are just some scary fairy tale. Xiaomin's BS meter goes off. He finds this whole peace-loving demon narrative extremely fishy. Meanwhile, Prida screams that it's all a massive scam, and Xiaomin totally agrees, though he stands up, musing sarcastically that maybe, just maybe, there are some nice demons out there after all. Then he flashes back to Raven's mana signature, which felt like a twisted cocktail of demon and human essence. Looking at the old photo, he mutters that at first, this was just a simple revenge mission for his fallen student, Min Jun. But as he follows the breadcrumbs the kid left behind, he's starting to realize the rabbit hole goes way deeper. The scene cuts to a young Min Jun trekking toward that very base in the frozen wastes of Antarctica. Xiaomin realizes in a sudden moment of clarity that this war is going to be a lot more grueling than he first thought. Back to teacher mode, Xiaomin tries to school his disciples, telling them to focus every drop of mana at their core. Acom looks like he's trying to solve advanced calculus, totally lost on how to actually move the energy. He whines to the master, claiming skills are just about an adrenaline rush and that sitting around meditating is a snooze fest. Xiaomin gives the brat a well-deserved smack, annoyed that they begged for training only to slack off. He explains that firing off skills is like sprinting, and that modern-day hunters are completely clueless about the basic fundamentals of power. Xiaomin vows to teach them the lessons the tutorial tower skipped over and barks at them to lock in. He explains that mana is the gas in the tank, and the reason Acom can't feel his center is because his basics are trash. Xiaomin starts breaking down the concept of the mana reservoir, the center or the core. This is the internal battery where mana piles up before exploding into a skill. He pokes Acom right in the chest, demonstrating that the raw power of a skill is all about how well you can pilot that flow of energy. Xiaomin keeps the masterclass going, explaining that with enough grind, you can unlock even more power hubs in the body. Acom gets sidetracked by the weird term Earth Time, just as his hands start to flicker with a faint glow. Xiaomin tells them to stop yapping, but Prida can't help mocking him, reminding him it took him a whole century to master this. He warns them that tomorrow's regimen will be a physical nightmare, but the door suddenly flies open. Zhang Heo bursts in looking like he's seen a ghost, hyperventilating that he's been hunting for Xiaomin everywhere. Xiaomin groans about the guy's relentless phone stalker energy, but Zhang Heo blurts out that they've been summoned to headquarters immediately as they head out. He gets curious, asking what the big boss, the regional director, could possibly want with him. Xiaomin suspects someone snitched, but Zhang Heo insists it's just fallout from the prison break on the way. A couple of arrogant jerks block their path, and one of them starts talking trash to Zhang Heo. One Song Chong keeps poking the bear, mocking Zhang Heo for being a pathetic paper pusher who never sees real action. Zhang Heo is fuming, wondering how this clown finished his mission and got back so fast. He tells the two to back off, but the jerk claims he's just being friendly. Then, he turns his attention to Xiaomin, sneering about the rookie who allegedly caused a massive scene. Xiaomin's patience hits zero, his face showing he's about 2 seconds away from ending this conversation. Zhang Heo finally snaps and tells the guy to clear the road and stop being a professional instigator. The partner joins in the mockery, laughing that they can't even handle a local mission, let alone leave the country for the big leagues. Xiaomin grits his teeth, listening to these elites look down on his team for doing the real heavy lifting. He turns around with a look that could kill and locks onto the prodigy rookie. The kid adjusts his glasses and starts lecturing, telling Xiaomin he needs to learn some respect and introduce himself to his betters. Xiaomin fires back instantly, telling Four Eyes to get a better prescription and get his face out of the way. The two bullies grin like psychos, clearly itching for an excuse to throw hands. With that, Han Juntae's fist starts shaking with pure, unadulterated rage at Xiaomin's rookie audacity. He starts flaring his mana, asking if he can educate this disrespectful punk right here, right now, but Zhang Heo shuts it down. He orders them to stand down, reminding them they're literally inside the main HQ building. Wen Chong loses his mind, screaming that a desk jockey like Zhang Heo has no authority over his squad. Zhang Heo plays it cool, ignoring him, while Xiaomin mocks the guy, saying his ego is so inflated he's starting to hallucinate voices. Furious, Wen Chong completely loses his cool, swearing he's going to bury them both to remind them who the real alpha is. The shouting match draws a crowd, and soon the whole lobby is whispering about the impending blowout. He's about to launch an attack when a voice booms out, saying everyone already knows who the real boss is. Meanwhile, Regional Director Gian Novak grabs his shoulder and confirms that the answer to that question is him. At the sight of the big man, Wen Chong and his buddy turn pale as sheets, looking like they just saw the Reaper. The director walks up to Xiaomin, first giving Zhang Heo a side-eye for not handling this petty drama. He then puts a friendly arm around Xiaomin, inviting him for a cup of high-end, exotic tea he's been saving. Wen Chong tries to whine, but the director shuts him down with a single look, with a fake sweet smile, he mentions all those special perks Wen Chong asked for in Japan, basically telling him to shut up and get back to work. With their tails between their legs, the two bullies swallow their pride and stand there like statues. From a distance, Wen Chong wonders what the hell is so special about this rookie that has a titan like Novak acting so friendly. Now, in the inner sanctum, The director says it's an absolute honor to finally meet Hunter Min face to face. Xiao Min keeps it blunt, asking what he wants, which sends Jong Hyo into a cold sweat. The director just laughs, loving the fact that this kid doesn't waste time with corporate brown-nosing. He reveals the real reason for the meeting, that messy escort mission at Incheon prison. Thanks to the Beast incident, the agency now has a green light to scrub the prison clean of corruption. He continues, saying the priority now is dumping every resource they have into finding that escaped convict. He then grills Xiao Min, finding it impossible to believe a guy of his caliber lost a prisoner. The director then asks Jong Hyo to clear the room for some private talk, and the guy teleports out of there. But before he goes, he apologizes quietly to Xiao Min for leaving him alone in the shark tank with the big boss. Once they're alone, director Novak drops the act, saying he's a logical man who can see through the smoke. He reveals he's fully aware Xiao Min was the one who actually dismantled the Beast and the runaway. Xiao Min just stares back silently, while the director rants about how they can't have a dangerous rogue on the loose. Suddenly, he mentions he invited a mutual friend who was dying to see Xiao Min again. Our hero is genuinely caught off guard and slowly turns toward the door. The director then introduces a living legend of the first generation, one of the 3 original Supreme Masters, and walking in is Du Jongwoo, the legendary head of the Solibi Guild, oozing pure power and authority. Du Jongwoo pours himself a drink, casually mentioning that it's been a long time since their last encounter. He admits he thought someone was pulling his leg, since everyone was convinced Xiao Min was 6 feet under. Xiao Min says it's a long story. While pride afloats, they're wondering who this high-level friendly guy is. We learn that this is Du Jongwoo, an old-school brother-in-arms from Xiao Min's original raiding days. The guild master is floored by the fact that Xiao Min hasn't aged a single day in over a decade. He grills his old friend on where he's been hiding, mentioning that his students have been scouring the globe for him. With a smirk, Xiao Min just suggests they grab another round and get comfortable. He warns that this is going to be a long night, preparing to spill everything that happened. After the full debrief, Jongwoo is stunned to learn his buddy was stuck in an ice sky hellscape for 100 years. Xiao explains it was all thanks to the Demon Lord's final trap, but the conversation hits a wall with some grim news. The hunter is shaken to his core, unable to process the bombshell his friend just dropped. He slams the table in a rage, demanding to know how humanity could sign a peace treaty while that monster is still breathing. The guild master tells him to take a breath, explaining that the Demon Lord is basically a vegetable now. He says the demons themselves begged for the truce, throwing their former leader under the bus for starting the war. Xiao Min scoffs that they were just scared, but Jongwoo reminds him that humanity was at its absolute breaking point. He paints a picture of a world in ruins after the first portals and the wave of monster attacks. Between the monsters and the demons, everyone was physically and mentally spent. Then, surprisingly, the demons offered to help rebuild society and even showed humans how to seal the portals. In exchange, they only asked for. They retreated to Antarctica, clutching the remains of their fallen demon lord like a security blanket. Back then, the masses were desperate for peace and obsessed with mastering the new mana energy. So, the world governments caved and signed a deal, and Choi Dae-soo was the one who played lead negotiator for South Korea. Since that day, the demons have been hiding in their icy hole, only popping out to play helpful neighbor. But the old-school, first-generation hunters loathed the treaty and just dropped off the map. Jongwoo admits he tried to stop caring, but lately, the vibes have been straight-up rancid. He drops a bombshell. Xiao Min's entire legacy has been scrubbed from the history books. A decade's worth of records were vaporized, and every finger points directly at Choi Dae-soo. The cover-up was so surgical that even Jongwoo struggled to recall Xiao Min's face to him. It's insane that a war hero like Xiao Min was ghosted by history. Xiao Min eyes him and asks point-blank if he thinks the demons and Dae-soo are in bed together. Jongwoo nods, noting that Dae-soo has always been obsessed with one-upping him, and old habits die hard. Prida is absolutely fuming at the betrayal, while Xiao Min mulls over the idea of Dae-soo being a demon sympathizer. He wonders why that snake would sell his soul just to delete one man from existence. Xiao Min asks what the demons get out of the deal besides a little revenge, but Jongwoo shrugs it off as a theory, admitting they're still missing the most important pieces of the puzzle. Xiao Min's blood boils, remembering it was those very demons who turned the world into a slaughterhouse. Jong-woo suggests tracking down his old squad, since his former disciples must know where the bodies are buried. Xiaomin tenses up, explaining it's not that simple since the team shattered and went their separate ways. His buddy drops a hint that Yeogwa is still in the country and has climbed the ranks to S-class. We see that the little girl has transformed into a powerhouse warrior and the commander of the Azure Bloom Guild. Xiaomin remembers her as the kid who never left his side and finds it bizarre she's working for Dae-soo. He takes a swig, muttering that people change and she probably has a damn good reason for switching sides. Suddenly he winces at the cheap booze, and Jong-woo cracks a joke about him needing to grow up. The guild master feels bad for not inviting Si-jun, but Xiaomin says keeping him out of the loop was the right call. Unseen by the duo, a spy snaps a photo of Xiaomin with a smirk that spells total trouble. The scene cuts to a man reporting the sighting to his lady boss over a burner phone. A mysterious woman purrs about the good work and tells her agent to extract immediately. Back at HQ, Yeogwa's phone pings, and her face goes pale. She stares at the screen and is totally shell-shocked. There's no mistaking that face in the photo. It's him. She's reeling, unable to process that her master is actually drawing breath. With this, every glitch and weird event in the tutorial tower finally makes perfect sense. Her knees buckle as she slides down the wall, whispering through tears that her master has finally come home. She breaks down right there, the weight of a decade's worth of grief finally washing away. Turns out she always had a hunch, knowing Si-hyuk had been playing a shell game with her from day one. Yeogwa remembers she never stopped digging, even when the rest of the world called her crazy. She gazes at the photo again, smiling through the tears because the man hasn't aged a single day. Fired up, she bolts to her feet, determined to track him down this very second. But like a jump scare, Choi Dae-soo appears in the hall, calling her name and freezing her in her tracks. The president looms over her with a suffocating aura, staring the young woman down. He asks where the fire is and mockingly reminds her she's supposed to call him uncle. Yeogwa death grips her phone, trying to keep her poker face while insisting everything is fine. But he clamps a hand on her shoulder, sneering that her face is a dead giveaway for a major secret. The president bores his eyes into hers, instantly reading the desperation written all over her. With a serpent-like grin, he confirms the rumors. The mad dog is back. Dae-soo needles her, saying that she's wagging her tail like a lost puppy who finally found its owner. He pats her head condescendingly, calling her a naive little fool for being so predictable. The president reminds her she's his precious niece, and he won't let his best asset walk away. Fuming, she slaps his hand away, screaming that she only joined his circus to find Xiaomin. Dae-soo admits he knew the whole time. He let her play detective because her obsession made her a better hunter. She's paralyzed by the realization. He coldly reminds her that in his world, hunters are just high-value hardware. Yeogwa snaps, screaming that they were never family and that Xiaomin is her only savior. But he hits her with the blackmail, asking how the great master will react when he learns about the blood on her hands. He tells her to choose her next move carefully, since Xiaomin isn't exactly the type to forgive criminals like her family. As he struts away, he taunts her, saying she could try to run, but she'll never wash off the stench of her origins alone. She squeezes her fist until it turns white, cursing his name. She's trapped in a corner with the walls closing in. The scene shifts to a hangar where Ji-soo and the other recruits are gearing up for a field trip. She's scanning the room for a certain someone, while another hunter tries to flirt for her attention. Ji-soo approaches Xiaomin, acknowledging that the guild master put him in the driver's seat. But she's sketched out by the two shady-looking dudes who tag along with him. Xiaomin brushes it off, calling them associates, basically rookies with a lot of miles on the odometer. With the introductions out of the way, Ji-soo Jin and her partner Kim Jong-woo formally join the squad. The girl is fascinated by the presence of the older hunter. A grandpa in the field is a rare sight. But the old-timer suddenly beams with a super creepy, friendly smile, leaving her weirded out. He compliments her manners, and a hyped-up Ji-soo vows to give it 110. Xiaomin immediately rains on the parade, reminding Acom that this is his one shot at redemption. With the squad locked in, they head toward the F5 portal. The rookies admit they've got a major case of the jitters. Xiaomin just shrugs, calling the portal nothing more than a cosmic doorway. The hunter worries about the horror stories of people vanishing but Shio says they didn't die. They just got lost in the sauce. The elder hunter chimed in, noting that nowadays, every portal is just a corporate asset for the guilds. He adds that these gates are basically money-printing machines for resources. As they step through, they emerge in a breathtaking forest, leaving Ji-Soo floored. The male rookie, however, looks like he's about to puke. The boy notes that there aren't any monsters waiting to jump them. Acom scoffs at their soft attitude, and Shiomin explains that's what happens when you raise kids in academies. We learn that post-tower, guilds just recruit and babysit newly awakened ones like corporate interns. Shiomin thinks this hand-holding method is pure trash, grumbling that it's why modern hunters are so low-tier. He calls the rookies over and demands a power reveal before they take another step. The boy complains, wondering why some outsider is barking orders at them. Furthermore, he's annoyed he's stuck babysitting a girl who can't even trigger her own skill. But suddenly she locks in and triggers her power, unleashing a burst of light that accidentally smacks her partner right in the face. The clumsy huntress apologizes, but Shiomin warns her to save the firepower for the actual enemies. He then tosses her a mysterious object, telling her to catch. She snags it and is baffled to find herself holding a riding crop. Shiomin explains it's a mana-focusing tool, a trick he picked up from his late student, Minjun. She grips the crop, and her magic instantly becomes 10 times more stable and potent. Her partner is left gaping, unable to believe her sudden power-up. Suddenly, a pack of goblins appears on a nearby ridge, and the hunter screams like his life is over. Shiomin orders the rookies to handle it 2-on-1, leaving the boy trembling. He even teases them, saying this is their job, and wishes them good luck with a wave, clearly planning to watch the comedy show from afar. Prada notes that the boy's skill is all flash and no substance, basically a light show with no punch. The elder hunter watches the struggle, predicting the kid will be out of gas in 5 minutes. Even though they're just low-level mobs, the boy panics as the goblin swarm starts to surround him. He screams for the huntress to bail him out, but his timing is abysmal. With his mana tank on empty, he takes a direct hit and collapses into the dirt, totally exposed. Seeing the life-or-death moment, Ji-Soo shuts her eyes, focuses her soul, and roars out her skill name. Her Beast Tamer ability kicks in, freezing the goblin in midair right before it can finish her partner off. She successfully tames the beast, which now stands loyally at her side like a well-trained guard dog. Pointing to her downed ally, she barks a command for the creature to back off. The goblin folds instantly and retreats. It slinks away in the opposite direction, chest puffed out as if it's actually proud of its new role. Ji-Soo beams, turning to the pros to ask if her flashy new domination skill lived up to the hype. The two mentors nod, noting that rare mind control types like her are basically the MVPs of the future. Prida is drooling, literally wanting to eat the skill, while Shiomin gives a rare not bad shrug, but then he drops a reality check, warning her that one pet won't be enough as a whole pack of goblins emerges from the shadows. With her partner out cold and monsters closing in, the rookie's confidence shatters into a scream for help. By the time the sun sets, Ji-Soo is bowing in gratitude for the brutal but necessary lesson. She's hyped, claiming she finally feels the click of her taming abilities. Acom is worried about her ghost-white face, but Shiomin keeps it cold, telling her she can quit and find a softer teacher anytime. She flashes a smile, thanking him for the ego death and admitting she was a bit too full of herself. Her partner is so physically wrecked, he's using Acom as a pillow. Ji-Soo realizes the skill is just the engine. The real key to the car is mastering the high-octane flow of mana within. Shiomin acknowledges her growth and calls it a day, but just as they wrap up, the group spots a massive crowd approaching, and the air suddenly feels a lot more crowded. Ji-Soo explains it's a corporate standoff. Her guild is fighting Azure Bloom over rights to a new portal. Shiomin's ears perk up at the name Azure Bloom, leaving the rookie scratching her head in confusion. Without a word, he starts marching toward the rival group, leaving the huntress completely in the dust. A scout reports some grim news to Yeogwa. They found a pile of hunter corpses inside the gate. The report says their insides were turned into mincemeat, making the leader's blood run cold. She starts theorizing, wondering if some Trojan horse skill was planted to tear the victims apart from the inside out. Suddenly, she catches a scent, a familiar, powerful aura, and a smirk plays on her lips as she whispers, "Finally." Xiaomin steps out of the shadows, greeting her with a casual, "It's been a minute," like they weren't separated by a decade. He jokes that he expected her to be the one hunting him down. Yeo Gua is paralyzed, only able to stammer, with a bittersweet smile, that the legend has finally returned home. Xiaomin tries to open up a conversation, but she goes ice cold, shuts him down, and turns her back to leave. Her own guild members are losing their minds, unable to grasp why their Ice Queen boss is acting so erratic. Prada laughs at the drama, while the old-timer asks if this is another one of his pupils. Xiaomin nods, but his mind is racing, sensing something deep beneath her cold exterior. He noticed the shimmer of tears in her eyes and wonders if she's been crying for 10 years straight. Flashback time. We see a tiny, heartbroken Yeo Gua sobbing in a corner before Xiaomin discovers her. He plops down next to her, teasing the little crybaby about losing a fight. Xiaomin ruffles her hair, telling her that if she's going to leak tears, she should do it with her head held high. She pouts, complaining that he always gives the good stuff to Si-jun just because they share blood. The young girl snaps that she's just a street rat he picked up and doesn't belong in his world. She thanks him for the rescue but tells him to get lost so she can cry in peace. But he completely ignores her and starts aggressively messing up her hair to force a smile out of her. With a grin, Xiaomin tells her that blood doesn't make a family. Choices do. He offers to be the big brother she never had. Embarrassed, the young Yeo Gua tries to play it tough and rejects him, claiming a dork like him is the last person she'd want as a brother. Xiaomin just laughs it off with a threat. Fine, then tomorrow's training will be a literal living hell. The narrator explains that back then, little sister wasn't enough. She wanted to stand by him as an equal, the blade to his shield, helping him forge the world he dreamed of. But she was haunted by her criminal bloodline, convinced her dark past would always drag her down. Even with a shattered heart, she vowed to be the ultimate weapon for the man who saved her soul. Cut to the present. Yeo Gua bursts into Si-jun's office, catching him totally off guard. She drops the formalities, and a nervous Si-jun asks what's urgent enough to skip an appointment. With a face like stone, Yeo Gua tells him they need to talk, and it's a matter of life or death. Elsewhere, Du Zhongwu is playing the diplomat, telling Dae-su he still wants to believe in him. He reminds him of the Big Three bond and their duty to world order. But Dae-su cuts him off mid-sentence, telling the old man to stop the power of friendship speech and get to the point. Zhongwu drops the hammer, asking point-blank if he's already made contact with Xiaomin. The guildmaster just sneers, mocking the idea that 10 years could ever turn a mad dog into a lapdog. Dae-su vents, saying everyone's got him wrong. He doesn't give a damn about humanity's peace. He snarls, calling the whole Three Supreme Masters title a pathetic, outdated joke. With a roar, Dae-su lets his mask slip, declaring that there's only room for one king at the top. He's obsessed with absolute evolution, believing mana is the only path to godhood. Then comes the shocker. He admits his business interests are perfectly aligned with the demons themselves. He argues that while nations made deals for profit, it's the only reason humanity isn't extinct. Dae-su challenges his old comrade, asking if he's just here to whine about old history. Bluntly, Zhongwu accuses him of the conspiracy that erased Xiaomin, but Dae-su just laughs it off like a bad joke, even going so far as to suggest a reunion of the three to clear the air. Suddenly, a new voice chimes in, "Great idea," sending a jolt of shock through the president. The voice continues, saying he's got zero to hide, but plenty of questions to burn. In a total power move, Xiaomin appears right on the terrace. He materializes out of thin air in a glowing magic circle, crashing the private party. With eyes like ice, he greets his old rival with a mocking Mr. President. Xiaomin hovers outside the window, reminding Dae-su that their long-overdue chat is finally happening. With a lazy flick of his wrist, he unleashes his power, and the entire reinforced glass wall of the skyscraper shatters into a million pieces. Dae-su doesn't even flinch, smiling at the mad dog as if he expected the property damage. Xiaomin lands and offers a fake apology, saying he just wasn't in the mood to wait for the elevator. Xiaomin steps into the room, warning that he's getting his answers before the guards swarm the place. He demands to know, 10 years ago, did you sell me out to the demons to get me out of your way? The president laughs, saying Xiaomin must have gotten soft in his old age to ask something so obvious. Xiaomin isn't playing. He demands the one-eyed bastard stop the riddles and speak the truth. Daesu needles him about his eternal youth vacation, but suddenly, a heavy projectile whistles through the air and embeds itself in the floor inches from the president's feet. Xiaomin's patience snaps. He threatens to rip the man apart unless he starts talking. He demands to know if the president is in bed with the traitors or behind Min Jun's murder, his aura turning pitch black. He warns him, "Keep Yeo Gua and my disciples out of your disgusting games." Daesu just lets out a dark, mocking laugh, showing absolutely zero fear of the legend. He bellows that this is the bloodthirsty mad dog he remembers. Xiao. Min begins to glow with power, admitting he's missed the high of a real battlefield. Daesu counters with a violent red aura, bragging about how much stronger he's become while Xiaomin was gone. He sets the terms. "You want answers? Then come take them from me in a fight." Xiaomin accepts with a smirk. He knows a guy like Daesu only speaks the language of violence. But Zhongwu leaps between them, and the president barks at him to stay out of it. The old master pleads for sanity, reminding them that leveling a skyscraper isn't exactly low profile. In the chaos, the guards and aides are completely paralyzed, unsure if they should shoot or run. Zhongwu scolds Xiaomin, warning him that a public brawl right now would ruin everything for Sijun. Xiaomin clicks his tongue in pure annoyance, but he backs down for his brother's sake. Daesu sighs, bored that the main event got canceled. He starts reminiscing about the good old days when they could beat each other half to death without a PR team getting involved. To him, that was a golden age, unlike these peaceful, boring times, so he decides to drop a crumb of truth, swearing he had zero part in Min Jun's death. Daesu also claims Yeo Gua chose his side because she wanted to, not because he forced her. He turns his back, telling Xiaomin to book an appointment like a normal person if he wants more info. Xiaomin stands in the ruins of the office, silently chewing on the president's words. Du Zhongwu lets out a massive sigh of relief now that the world-ending brawl has been dodged. Meanwhile, the scene shifts, and Daesu steps into the elevator, barking at his assistant to zip it and stay in his lane. The young lackey shrivels up in pure terror, stammering out a pathetic apology to his boss. Then, the president commands an A-rank portal to be prepped immediately and demands Yeo Gua be brought to him. The scene cuts to a chilling night illuminated by a haunting full moon. Flashback time. We're jumping back 7 hours to see how this mess started. It turns out Yeo Gua cornered Sijun, grilling him for any intel on the mysterious IS guild. She drops a gruesome detail. The hunters found dead in that portal had their organs turned to mush from the inside out. Yeo Gua figures it's either a terrifyingly unique skill or they all swallowed the same poison. She reveals every victim was tied to IS, a ghost guild no one's ever heard of. Sijun hangs on every word. Then, he drops a dark rumor he managed to dig up about that shadowy place. He reveals, with a look of genuine shock, that the guild is reportedly run by a demon master. Sijun asks where she got such a lead, but Yeo Gua just tells him to use the info however he sees fit. She turns to Ghost, mentioning she'll keep playing detective and will keep him in the loop. But before she vanishes, she warns him not to track her down since Daesu has eyes everywhere, she tells Sijun to keep her visit a secret from the master, as she has no intention of crawling back to him. Sijun realizes his hunch was dead on. Yeo Gua only played along with Daesu to find Xiaomin. But he's stumped. There's zero reason for her to keep playing the double agent now that the legend is back. He recalls how Xiaomin used to trust his disciples with his eyes closed. But in his view, that circle of students was always drowning in secrets. He's a worried sigh, wondering what kind of endgame Yeo Gua and Xiaolong are really playing. Suddenly, Xiaomin storms into the room, sending Sijun flying out of his chair in a state of pure, unadulterated panic. The younger brother turns into a statue, stuttering, yeah, with his brain completely short-circuiting. With a gaze that could freeze fire, Xiao orders him to spill the beans about Yeo Gua. Cut to Yeo Gua on a dark street. She's standing near a blacked-out car, clearly waiting for a heavy hitter to show up. Right then, a pack of agents arrive, informing her the president needs her. Now, she mutters bastard under her breath. But she caves and tells them to drive. Flashback to 10 years ago, right after Xiaomin vanished. A demon named Ekaton explains that Xiao is a walking disaster for nearly taking out a North-level threat. He claims a human nearly beating a North is an insult to their kind and proposes a deal, but Daesu isn't biting. He reminds the demon that despite the treaty, humanity won the war. and he questions why he'd ever lift a finger for demons who are about to be exiled to the frozen wasteland of Antarctica. The demon smirks, revealing they've been watching Dae-soo and know he's bored to death by this new piece. He needles him, saying Dae-soo is itching to test his limits without any pathetic rules holding him back. Ekatin hits the bullseye, stating the hunter's only true high is fighting enemies that should be impossible. With that, he offers Dae-soo the keys to godhood, absolute power, and total mastery over mana. Dae-soo clenches his gut, realizing the demon is after more than just a history rewrite. He asks if the demon realizes that by making him a god, he's creating their own worst nightmare. But Ekatin claims the demons only care about the scientific mysteries of mana and the gates. He walks away, leaving the offer hanging in the air. It's obvious that right there, the strongest hunter in Korea made a deal with the devil. Back to the present. Dae-soo is standing in an F-rank portal, a desolate, bone-dry wasteland. An assistant pops through a gate, reporting that the stage has been set exactly as he ordered. He confirms the area is now guild property and that every living soul has been cleared out. Dae-soo praises the efficiency and then checks if his special invitation was delivered. The lackey confirms it, but reminds the boss the summit is tomorrow. Dae-soo snaps that he knows. He barks at everyone to get lost. The assistants retreat, one of them grumbling about the rude dismissal. Then Yeogwa steps out of the portal, demanding to know why she's been summoned to this dump. Dae-soo scolds her, telling her to fix her attitude since there are still ears nearby. She doesn't flinch, telling him to cut the drama and get to the point. Then he drops it. He knows she's been pinning Xiumin's disappearance on him all these years. He swears that 10 years ago, he didn't sign the demon's contract or do their dirty work. But Dae-soo admits he stood by while they erased Shio's legacy because he didn't give a damn about history. Yeogwa is sickened by his coldness, calling his excuses a joke. He doubles down, explaining he felt zero guilt about becoming president. The only thing that kept him up at night was never knowing who was truly the alpha, him or the mad dog. Livid. Yeogwa calls him a worthless bastard and flares her aura in a violent burst of power. She lunges, screaming that he's been a demon puppet this entire time. In a fit of rage, she realizes he's been playing everyone from the start. Then, she leaps for the kill, screaming about her master's lost years and ruined name. But Dae-soo catches her full force attack with a single hand, showing an absurd power gap. He mocks her, saying she's just as reckless and slow as her mother, before backhanding her across the zone. The impact is so violent it kicks up a massive dust storm and craters the earth, broken and bleeding. She hears the cold truth. She's just bait to make the mad dog's blood boil. He confesses that a massive inferiority complex has been haunting him like a ghost for years. And now that Xiumin is back, he's going to erase that ghost once and for all. Despite her wounds, she cackles, doubting the master would ever walk into such a pathetic trap for someone like her. With one step, he counters that he absolutely will, betting everything on Xiumin's loyalty. He grinds his heel into her, admitting he used to think the master's family act was fake, but the look in Xiumin's eyes the other night proved that his feelings for his students are his ultimate weakness. He's using her as the ultimate spark to ignite the fight of the century. Dae-soo summons a glowing magic chain, ready to lock down his hostage. Right then, the chains lash around Yeogwa, and she screams in agony, completely paralyzed. He notes that these chains are so high tier, even an S-rank hunter is just a dog on a leash. With a grin, he tells her to stay alive until the hero arrives, as that's her only job. She fights the restraints, screaming that he's still nothing but human trash. Suddenly, a thunderous roar echoes through the portal, coming from directly above. From the heavens, Xiumin drops like a terminal velocity meteor and slams into the dirt with a bone-shattering impact. The collision triggers a massive explosion of rock and dust, but Dae-soo just screams with joy. He's hyped that today, history finally gets a rewrite. He brags that the world will watch this relic die and finally hail him as the undisputed king. With a bone-chilling smile, Xiumin emerges from the smoke, calling his ego trip total garbage. He launches a full-throttle assault, shattering the terrain as he lunges at the president. Dae-soo barely blocks it, laughing even as the raw force of the blow drags him backward. He calls Xiumin mediocre, claiming their 10-year gap has created a canyon of power between them. Prada warns that this fight is getting out of hand, but Xiaomin just growls that he doesn't give a damn. Pushing his power to the red line, he warns the predator that the kid gloves are coming off. Xiao tells Prida they're going all out. But Prida warns him that Dae-soo is a genuine freak of nature. The parasite continues, warning that if he pushes past his limit, the backlash will be catastrophic, but Xiaomin calculates that even at 50% power, he can still wipe the floor with this guy. Then, Dae-soo needles him, asking if the legendary Mad Dog is finally feeling a bit of fear. The two titans charge at Mach speed, ready for the first real collision of the war. He stops the president in his tracks, mocking him that it doesn't even need full power to trash a mediocre pawn. Their clash triggers a shockwave so massive it's basically a nuclear explosion. Yeo Gua watches in awe, realizing she's witnessing a battle beyond any awakened she's ever seen. She's stunned because they're moving so fast her S-rank eyes can't even track their silhouettes. Suddenly, Dae-soo summons a massive crimson spear and laughs, drunk on the pure adrenaline. He says this is what it feels like to be truly free, shattering every limit on his soul. With a manic grin, he says he's diving headfirst into the core of mana, but Xiaomin just mocks him, asking why he's still playing around with those old, dusty toys from a decade ago. With a flick of his wrist, he conjures a massive earthen wall to tank the blow. Dae-soo's spear shreds through the defense like paper, and Prada lets out a high-pitched shriek, terrified and questioning if this guy is even human anymore. Xiaomin just watches with a bored expression, noting that Dae-soo was always a reckless meathead with the strength of a tank. Xiaomin summons his own gear, mocking Dae-soo for acting more like a wild beast than a man. With a smirk, he hovers in the air, locking in for the next round. While the president charges in, cloaked in a violent crimson aura, Dae-soo hurls a volley of spectral swords, but Xiaomin just stands his ground, cool as a cucumber. Then the president roars that he's taking the gloves off, unleashing a tidal wave of raw energy straight at our hero. The blast slams into a mana shield, and Dae-soo sneers, calling the defense a pathetic piece of glass. The barrier starts to spiderweb, and he keeps trash-talking, asking if this light version of Xiaomin is really all he's got left. Dae-soo then manifests a colossal war hammer, eager to see how many swings it takes to turn the shield into dust. He swings with everything he's got, and the impact sends cracks racing across the entire barrier until it shatters. Sensing his opening, Xiaomin preps a nasty counter and barks out a command, summoning a swarm of ice spears. A blizzard of jagged ice rains down on the president, who's moving too slow to dodge the sheer volume of fire. The spears lock onto their target and detonate right in his face, erupting into a massive sphere of blue mana. The hammer clatters to the floor, and a dazed Dae-soo admits the Mad Dog still hits like a runaway freight train. Barely breaking a sweat, Xiaomin tells him to put a sock in it and let the girl go if he values his life. He points out that Yeo Gua was just a pawn to lure him out, and her role in this game is over. But the president just grins, saying the warm-up was fun, but he knows the legend has more in the tank. Dae-soo warns that Yeo Gua is still a useful tool, so he's keeping her on a short leash for now. He screams at her to be grateful she's even useful, mocking her as nothing but an assassin's brat. Hearing the insult, Yeo Gua finally snaps and screams at the president to shut his lying mouth. With tears stinging her eyes, she begs him not to do anything reckless, but Xiaomin turns back and softly tells Yeo Gua to just stay put and let the pros handle it. He flares his mana, warning her that he doesn't want her catching stray hits in this brawl. The president is caught off guard by the sudden shift in his rival's vibe, but he breaks into a manic grin, shouting that he's missed that terrifying, dark pressure, spear at the ready. He declares that the real show is finally starting. Xiaomin lunges with maximum force, telling the president to shut up and take his medicine. He blocks with a shield, but his eyes widen as he realizes Xiaomin's mana density is on a whole different level. The force of the strike is so insane that Dae-soo is plowed backward, his boots digging trenches into the ground. He keeps poking the bear, claiming Xiaomin hasn't changed a bit because he's still pulling his punches. Xiaomin fires back that Dae-soo is still a brainless brute before triggering a mana explosion. Dae-soo gets triggered and screams that he's evolved way beyond the man he used to be. Xiaomin plants his feet and slams a sword into the earth, stating time has taught him plenty, but Dae-soo just raises his steel. warning that their last scrap made one thing crystal clear. Suddenly, a cage of red energy swirls around Xiaomin, catching him completely off balance. The president charges in with an energy blade, howling that Xiaomin is no longer. He spits out the words with pure spite, screaming that the hero is no longer in his league. With that, the blow connects perfectly, turning the entire area into a massive red mushroom cloud. Watching the carnage from the sidelines, Yeo Gua screams her master's name in a panic. She watches the settling dust with her heart in her throat, terrified of what's left in the crater. Then a voice rings out, thanking Dae-su for saving him the trouble of a long explanation. It's Xiaomin, stopping the blade cold and warning the president that he's completely outmatched. The president is floored. His legendary building-slicing sword was just caught like a toy. He can't process that Xiaomin blocked a max power hit with just one arm, but Xiaomin just laughs at him, mocking him for getting soft after fighting small fry for 10 years. Then he yanks Dae-su into his space and whispers that he survived a century in the bowels of hell. The president takes a direct hit to the jaw, feeling the bone-crushing weight of the strike. The punch is so violent, it launches him across the arena, trailed by a shockwave of energy. He slams into a stone cliff, pulverizing the rock, even as blood leaks from his mouth. He starts cackling, stoked that someone finally made him bleed. He stands up and taps his watch, declaring it's time to take the safety off and go to the next level. We learn that a strict law forces SS rank hunters to wear power-dampening bracelets. These shackles nerf their mana and skills so they don't accidentally level a city. Dae-su smashes the device on the ground, finally free of the weight holding him back. Xiaomin just smirks, calling the leash a perfect fit for a stray dog like him and labeling the whole act pathetic. He asks if he really climbed to the presidency just so he could take off his own jewelry. The president fires back that it was about more than just power. It was about this very moment. He bellows that this is the perfect stage to test his godhood against a worthy rival. Xiaomin cracks his knuckles, muttering that Dae-su was always the loudest mouth in the room, with his mana boiling. He squares up, challenging the president to bring everything he's got. Then, a blinding flash erases the landscape, and a mana pulse makes the earth groan. The two collide with world-shaking force, unleashing a series of violent shockwaves that ripple through the portal. The pressure is so intense that Yeo Gua is pinned to the dirt, unable to even lift her head. She realizes their raw mana is literally melting the portal, which is on the verge of total collapse. Panicked, she fears her master's unrestrained power will leak out and vaporize the innocents outside. With that, she pushes her body to the breaking point and finally snaps her chains to jump into the fray. But the two titans are locked in a high-speed blur, trading blows faster than the eye can follow. Dae-su summons a giant mallet and pulverizes the ground, sending boulders flying. Then Xiaomin triggers a skill, creating a squad of mirror clones that all swarm the enemy at once. The synchronized assault from the clones starts to turn Dae-su's shield into confetti. He's reeling from the power gap, shocked that he's still losing even without his limiter, but even battered. He starts laughing like a psycho and calls down a literal rain of swords to counter. Dae-su grips his spear until his knuckles turn white, prepping a forbidden secret art. He hurls the weapon at Xiaomin with every ounce of his red mana. Meanwhile, the spear morphs into a massive, glowing energy tiger that lets out a roar that shakes the heavens. But Xiaomin catches the beast by the jaw, realizing it's just the sealed power of an old artifact. He shouts for Prida to trigger the tamer skill and hijack the beast for him. Dae-su is stunned, wondering what kind of cheat code powers Xiaomin picked up in the void, with the skill active. The energy tiger flips its loyalty, now standing beside Xiaomin as his personal pet. With a grin, he declares himself the new pack leader and orders the beast to tear into the enemy. The president is livid at the disrespect and curses Xiaomin's name with pure venom. Suddenly, Yeo Gua sprints between them, screaming for the madness to end. She begs Xiaomin to look at the carnage, desperately trying to show him the collateral damage they've caused. The portal is literally falling apart and mana is starting to bleed into the real world. She warns that even as president, Dae-su will have to answer to the international court for this disaster. But he just scoffs, calling her an insolent brat with a nasty smirk. Then she drops the hammer, revealing she's already alerted the association and the portal is about to be forced open. Yeo Gua limps forward and, with a shaky voice, plead for them to put an end to this suicide match. Xiaomin goes quiet for a second, his eyes locked onto his former student. Suddenly, the discarded bracelet on the ground starts buzzing, and Dae-Soo actually picks it up, barking, "Who is it?" into the line. On the other side, a voice identifies himself as Edward from the HMCS Global Headquarters. He informs the president that this is a code-red emergency and they need an immediate sit-down. The president grumbles a curse, but realizes he has to play ball and resolve the mess. He turns to Yeo Gua one last time, spitting that he never should have taken in such an ungrateful traitor. Dae-Soo struts away, claiming the duel's lost its spark and barking at Xiaomin to vanish from his sight, with him gone. The dust finally settles, and this brutal showdown finally grinds to a halt. Yeo Gua collapses, her spirit crushed now that her master has peered into the darkest corners of her soul. She's spiraling, wondering if he'll discard her once she confesses she's the spawn of a criminal. But Xiaomin walks over and gives her a head pat, gently asking if she's still in one piece. Stunned by the warmth, she looks up and realizes her master is the same kind soul she worshipped a decade ago, despite the hell he's endured. She lunges into a tight hug, bawling her eyes out, while he cracks a joke about her having enough juice left for a scene. Back on the grid, Dae-Soo spins a web of lies, claiming the Huntress's intel was nothing but a pile of garbage. He throws Yeo Gua under the bus, playing the responsible leader who's handling her little false alarm. With a sneer, he brushes it off as mere training in a locked zone, accusing the higher-ups of totally overreacting. But HMCS Vice President Edward Blackwood isn't buying the bridge Dae-Soo is trying to sell. He fires back that the training excuse died the moment the president ripped off his power limiter. It's common knowledge that SS-rank powerhouses are strictly banned from settling private beefs with their powers. If a scrap is unavoidable, they're legally bound to call the association unless they want to spark a national crisis. Edward needles him, reminding him that his fancy title won't save him from a date with a war crimes tribunal, even if his own country looks the other way. The international bigwigs will hunt him down with a razor-sharp smile. He purrs that there's no need to let things get messy and shatter the global peace. He tells Dae-Soo to sweep this mess under the rug internally, and the president folds. Edward notes they'll let it slide for now. But he drops a kicker. They still need to interrogate the mystery man who went toe-to-toe with him, sipping his coffee. He admits he's dying to have a chat with this supposedly nobody hunter. Dae-Soo slams the phone down, realizing the vice president has set his sights directly on Xiaomin. The curtain falls on a promise. These two titans will clash again on South Korean soil. Grinding his teeth, Dae-Soo rehashes his humiliating defeat, never expecting the mad dog to pack that much heat. He recalls his absolute certainty that he'd eclipsed Xiaomin, only for reality to slap him across the face. His ego rots as he realizes Xiaomin's strength has ascended past anything remotely human. He obsesses over the secret to that power, fuming that a century of his own blood and sweat was outclassed in an instant. But then a dark grin spreads. He's missed the addictive rush of a life-or-death gamble. He white-knuckles his fist, knowing he needs to shatter his limits and find a new level of carnage. He finally has a goal, a prey worth hunting, and he welcomes the Mad Dog back to the pack, 1 week later, at the Azure Bloom Guild HQ under the cover of night. Meanwhile, a man asks Yeo Gua if she stayed away so long out of pure embarrassment. She admits she did, confessing that just knowing her master was drawing breath again was enough for her. Xiaomin heaves a sigh and asks if she's for real, not buying her damsel in distress act for a second. Then Yeo Gua pleads for him to tell her he at least made some headway on Min Jun's murder. He confirms he's on the trail. But the lead is cold. The real puppet master behind the killing is pulling string from outside Korea. Xiaomin notes that Dae-Soo was just using her as a chess piece, not actually out to trash his students. Nervous, Yeo Gua tries to explain her dirty bloodline, but Xiao shuts her down, saying he's already over it. He taps her shoulder, stating he'd never lift a finger for someone who treats him like dirt, even if they shared the same DNA. With a beaming smile, Yeo Gua thanks the master for giving her the strength to stand tall, but Xiaomin drops the hammer, telling her the healing isn't over until she severs that toxic family cord. He tells her to walk the path of the righteous and be proud, since she's clean of her family's sins. In a flashback, we see him swearing an oath to help her crush every demon from her past. She smiles, finally realizing she was never the lone wolf she thought she was. Empowered, Yeo Gwa grabs her phone, ready to beg Si-jun for forgiveness. She knows the road to trust is long and rocky, but she's owning her mistakes 100. Xiaomin rubs the back of his neck and agrees that a face-to-face with him tomorrow is the right move. She's terrified of the confrontation, but he mentions he's already smoothed things over with Si-jun. He checks his phone. 9 missed calls. Suddenly, the device vibrates again. Jong Hyo pops up, sounding like the world is ending, explaining he's been hunting him down for an emergency. Then, he reveals a call just came in from the HMCS Global Command. Jong Hyo drops the bomb that Vice President Blackwood is flying into Korea just to see Xiaomin personally. Xiaomin groans, grumbling that this Edward clown found out about the scrap and what a total pain in the neck he is. Xiaomin wonders what a big shot from the HMCS could possibly want with a relic like him. The agent says they're playing their cards close to the chest, and Jong Hyo is floored that Xiao actually knows this Edward. Jong Hyo says he's desperate for answers, since a mysterious figure emerged during this high-stakes visit. Xiaomin bolts upright and says he's skipping the details because he's under a strict gag order. The man tells him to sit tight in the office until they finalize the meeting schedule. Meanwhile, their boss is having a meltdown on the line, screaming at Jong Hyo for intel. Yeo Gwa tells him to just follow orders and keep his head down until the heat dies off. Later, he's surprised she's tagging along, but she just shrugs and says it's on her way home. He takes the bait and asks what her grand plan is for the future. Yeo Gwa offers to be his eyes and ears, promising the full weight of her guild's resources, but suddenly, a black sedan screeches to a stop, the horn blaring like a siren. The duo is blindsided by the sudden intrusion, but Yeo Gwa recognizes the car instantly. A voice from the shadows mocks them, saying it's a shame he caught her red-handed even after the truth came out. The tinted window slides down to reveal Dae-soo, looking like he's ready to judge a soul. From the back seat, President Choi Dae-soo barks at the mad dog to get in. Yeo Gwa is fuming at his sheer gall, demanding to know why Xiao should listen to a word he says. Then, the president drops a cold threat. He better hop in if he wants his precious disciple to keep breathing. She's ready to tear him apart, calling him a lowlife, but Xiao stops her with a single word. With a calm smirk, he tells her to head home and that he'll hit her up later. Worried, Yeo Gwa watches her master climb into the lion's den and shut the door. The car peels away, leaving the girl standing on the curb with the silence ringing in her ears. As they speed through the city, Xiaomin realizes she was dead right about this guy. Inside the car, the president needles him for showing up after getting worked over, but Dae-soo admits his calendar is filling up and proposes one final, official death match to settle the score. Xiao tells him to zip it, unable to believe a piece of human garbage like him runs the country. Crossing his arms, he mutters the name of the shadow group, keeping him up at night, Pandemonium. The president explains that the ghosts of that old cult are still haunting every corner of the globe. He reveals the demons reached out a decade ago, the moment the world thought Xiaomin was dead. Xiao goes quiet, wondering if they're just fanatical lunatics or actual puppets of the demon realm. The president leans back, explaining that hunting demons has been a nightmare since the peace treaty tied their hands. He notes that even with top-tier eyes on them, the demons haven't made a single slip-up. But then he drops the real bomb, rumors of half-demons emerging in the Middle East. Xiaomin's interest is piqued, and he grills him about these half-breeds. The scene cuts to a sun-drenched desert city. He explains they're the forbidden offspring of demons and humans. They look like us, but they bleed dark mana. Dae-soo admits he hasn't seen one personally since high-risk zones are off-limits to tourists. Then, he accuses Xiao of reeking of dark mana during their scrap, asking if he's been cozying up to the enemy. The president smirks, assuming Xiao sold his soul to the very monsters he hates just for a power boost. Livid, Xiao roars that he's nothing like them and barks at him to pull the car over. The car slams on the brakes, and Xiao steps out, warning that he's only saying this once. Standing on the pavement, he makes it clear he isn't on the side of the demons, and he sure as hell isn't on the side of a rat like him. Xiao shuts the door on the convo, demanding an apology for Yeo Gwa and telling the president to only call him when he's ready to die. To Dae-soo, that's pure gold. and he wonders why a god like Shio protects such weaklings. Shio just cryptically warns him that he'll regret that mindset one day before telling him to get lost. The car vanishes, leaving Shio Min alone with his thoughts and a haunting mental image of a grinning half-demon. The scene shifts to the HMCS HQ, where the local staff are buzzing with anxiety over the surprise inspection from the global branch. The gossip mill is in overdrive, with employees whispering that every day in this place is a new flavor of chaos. At Director John Novak's door, he greets Mr. Blackwood with a forced smile. The director then presents Shio Min, introducing him as the latest powerhouse to join the branch's roster. The blonde guy in the suit gives a stiff, formal welcome to the newcomer, but Shio Min cuts through the corporate fluff, demanding the director reveal what Edwin is really plotting. With a smirk, Edwin waves off Director Beck, politely telling him to beat it so the big boys can talk. The director is dying to know what's up, but he's not about to risk his job by annoying an executive. He slinks out of the office, promising to play doorman in case they need anything else. The second the door clicks shut, a roar erupts that's loud enough to make Shio cover his ears. In a flash, Edwin has him by the collar, screaming at him to account for his 10-year disappearing act. Without waiting for a response, he socks Shio right in the ribs, calling him a royal bastard. Once he cools down, he admits he's just relieved the man's alive and demands the full story. Sighing, Shio Min acts like he knew this beating was coming and gestures for his old pal to take a seat. After the Cliff Notes version of the tragedy, Edwin realizes Shio survived a world where time is a total mess. He laments how the world moved on from its hero, confessing even his own memory was starting to get fuzzy. But Edwin gets hyped, reminding Shio he's the savior who pulled his life out of the fire countless times. Shio Min finds being called a savior absolutely cringeworthy and pivots the convo toward Yeo Gua's situation. Then Edwin explains that HQ is currently running a joint operation with several top-tier guilds. Her guild, Azure Bloom, is a key player, which is how he tracked down Shio's contact info. Seeing an opening, he tries to scout Shio for the main headquarters instead of leaving him in the local minor leagues. The answer is a stone-cold no, leaving Edwin gaping like a fish, unable to grasp why he'd refuse. He insists Shio is a shark in a bathtub here and that a hunter his caliber needs a real partner. Plus, he argues that with HQ's unlimited clearance, Shio's personal hunt would be a walk in the park. Shio gives a maybe, then grills him about this massive case that has all the guilds on edge. Edwin spills. They found a desert portal littered with hunters who died from severe poisoning. The labs confirmed they were juicing on illegal optimizers, shady power-up drugs. Shio Min is genuinely shocked to hear about illegal steroids for the awakened. Edwin nods, revealing HQ has been tracking these mysterious deaths globally for over a year. He drops a chilling detail. Forensic scans showed the victims' organs were literally shredded at a cellular level. They kept it quiet because the victims were all low-life criminals and the drug itself left zero traces. But luck changed when a witness from a similar freak show in China stepped forward to spill the beans. She swore she saw awakened hunters inhale some kind of black powder, go absolutely berserk, and then basically implode. Shio Min connects the dots instantly, linking that black dust to the corpses in the desert. Edwin says linked doesn't cover it. They've officially labeled that desert site as Ground Zero. But Shio smells a rat, wondering why the portal was only just found if these cases are over 6 months old. That's when Edwin reveals the master of Azure Bloom was the one who found the raw powder at the scene. She also spotted a vehicle from the IS Guild, which reeks of a setup. Hearing that, Shio slumps back, realizing his disciple has dove head first into a giant pile of trouble. Edwin smirks, revealing he's known Yeo Gua was Shio's apprentice from the very beginning. And since she's the one who found the evidence, she's got a massive target on her back now. He plays his ace, saying Shio joining the case is the only way to keep his students safe. Edwin leans in, asking if he's really cold enough to let his own apprentice drown in this mess. With a grim look, the legendary Mad Dog vibe starts to bleed out. He sighs, admitting to himself that Edwin just pulled a perfect checkmate. He agrees to the job, mentioning he needed to head to the Middle East anyway. Clapping his hands, Edwin cheers and offers to handle the heat from President Choi. But Shio just leans back and says, that power-tripping scoundrel is just a junkie for strength and nothing more. Despite the bad blood, He figures the president is still just a man. The scene shifts, and Sejun catches his brother packing his bags and asks about this high-stakes HQ mission. Shio confirms he's going and mentions Edwin personally put in the request. Sejun is baffled, wondering how his brother and a global VP became besties overnight. The phone starts buzzing, and Shio tells him stuff happened and that Yeo Gwa will fill him in, phone in hand. His brother picks up, his face turning dead serious as he listens. As he walks off, he asks Yeo Gwa how on earth she managed to snag his private number. Mid-prep, Prida asks where they're heading, and the destination is the European HQ. But the entity's vibe shifts to serious, asking if Shio is ready to redline his mana again. Shio Min tries to laugh it off, but Prida admits its concern is strictly about the toll on Shio's physical shell. The hunter is intrigued, asking what kind of side effects he should be looking out for. Prida explains that since returning to Earth, its essence has adapted, but it's slowly losing its grip. It's still reeling from the dimensional jump, and thinks the brawl with Dae Su was the tipping point. Their pact keeps it from turning on Shio, but it senses the internal stability is circling the drain. It has a bad feeling that as Shio's mana pool refills, the instability will only get more violent, which means its power might just ghost him exactly when he needs it most in a fight. Shio Min goes quiet for a beat, letting the weight of that warning sink in. But he shakes it off, claiming it's fine since he's back to being a one-man army anyway. He notes he'll need Prida's juice for demons, but these humans are small potatoes, stretching. Shio admits that as much as the Dae Su fight sucked, it actually helped him blow off some rust. He mulls over the term optimizers. That name rings a bell, and it's definitely not a good one. The scene cuts. 2 days later, we're at the sleek HMCS International HQ. Inside, two hunters are gossiping about Blackwood bringing in a secret weapon for an undercover op. One notes they only needed one Asian rep and asks Ikari Ayakawa for her take. A fanboy starts gushing over Ikari, calling her the most gorgeous and elite leader in the business. But Lila, the Team 1 lead, crashes the party, saying she'd rather work with the Korean ace, Kang Yeogwa. Ikari's blood boils. She warns Lila she heard every word and tells her to say it to her face. Just then a guy rushes in apologizing for being late, saying the director wants everyone in the war room. Ikari crosses her arms, sarcastically remarking that the nepotism hire has finally touched down. The young staffer gets flustered, telling him to move it because the guy just cleared airport security. Lila muses that this hunter must be a real monster if the VP went to the airport to pick him up personally. And then he drops the name Shio Min, just as we see him strolling through the terminal with Blackwood. In the briefing room, the director thanks the elite squad for showing up and preps the intro. He introduces Shio Min from the Korean branch, declaring he's joining the strike team as of today. The camera pans to Lila and Stefan, the heavy hitters representing the European division. Opposite them are Ikari and her right-hand Kyumo, repping the Asian division, without wasting a breath. Blackwood says the clock is ticking and throws the usual corporate formalities out the window. He tells Lila to get the newbie up to speed, and she stands up ready to deliver. But mid-brief, an assistant whispers it's time for his next flight. He flashes a smile, leaves the mess in the hands of Investigation Team 1, and ducks out. With the big boss gone, a thick, awkward silence settles over the room like a fog. Lila breaks the tension with a sharp, professional throat clear, and prepares to finally lay out the details of the optimizer case. The projector hums to life as she dives into the epidemic of illegal power boosters among hunters. She details the raid on an A-rank portal where they found 6 corpses. The autopsies showed the signature internal liquefaction, and the drug was found right next to the bodies. There were signs of struggle near the gate, but so far, the inside of the portal has been a ghost town. To make it even shadier, an IS Guild vehicle was spotted nearby. The deep dive into the IS Guild shows they're a small, legal outfit with a boring paper trail. At this point, Lila explains the core mission: infiltrate the portal and sweep the entire area for clues. She wraps up the briefing and asks for questions, but Shio Min cuts in before she can even finish, stating his question has nothing to do with their little slideshow. He asks point-blank if they have any intel on a secret group of half-demons. Lila is caught off guard, asking him if he seriously thinks there's a demon conspiracy behind a drug case. Shio Min admits he's still playing a hunch, but warns that sleeping on these guys would be a rookie mistake. He breaks it down, If this drug was human-made, the original recipe would have leaked to the black market ages ago. He asks for a deep dive in their archives, but Ikari cuts him off, barking about why he's chasing ghost stories that have absolutely zero to do with their current mission. He shrugs, saying he's just sharing the tea he heard, and grills her on how she can be so 100 sure he's wrong. The girl drops a condescending laugh, acting like his theory is the punchline of a bad joke. She scoffs, asking if the elite squad should really waste time on some trust me bro rumor he picked up in a back alley. She adds that if half-demons were a real threat, the big brains at Central Command would have put them on the most wanted list already. Lila shuts him down, reminding him he's just an unranked hire who rode in on the vice president's coattails. Ikari rolls her eyes and snaps that everyone signed a peace treaty with the demons a decade ago. In a story. The tension is thick enough to cut with a blade, but Lila finally steps up and kills the bickering before it gets ugly. Stefan plays the peacemaker, begging the team to keep their cool before they even set foot on the battlefield. Lila nods, reminding them they're all supposed to be the best of the best and need to act like a team to crack this case. She tells Xiaomin to lock in on the objective, and he agrees to play nice, for now, with the drama paused. She announces she's dropping the intel on the mission site's climate for tomorrow's deployment. The briefing wraps up with a see you at the terminal, as they prep for the long-haul flight. Even in the hallway, Ikari is still fuming, wondering who this nobody thinks he is. She can't wrap her head around how such a rude, self-absorbed jerk managed to become the vice president's golden boy. Lila tells her to chill, but Ikari snaps back, accusing her of being a Xiaomin fangirl. Lila plays it cool, denying the charge but noting that the guy clearly has the aura of a battle-hardened vet. Back in the empty war room, Xiaomin lets out a massive yawn, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He grumbles that this road trip is going to be a total snooze fest since he hates playing corporate games. The door swings open and Edwin strolls in, smirking about the warm and fuzzy welcome the team gave him. Xiaomin hits him with a sarcastic, "Oh look, it's the big shot vice president." Edwin flops into a chair and vents about how exhausting it is to babysit an international agency. But Xiaomin stands up, dropping a classic line. With great power comes great responsibility, reminding him that the job is a heavy lift. Curious, Edwin asks what his honest first impression of the Dream Team was. He admits a few of them are grade A pests, but he doesn't care as long as they don't trip him up during the hunt. Edwin chuckles, noting that the mad dog hasn't lost his edge, but then he warns him to behave since the agency's rep is on the line. Cut to the chase. The team touches down at the Middle East HQ and gets the VIP treatment. A local guy greets them, pointing them to their high-end suites so they can recharge their batteries. He mentions their tactical ride is gassed up and ready for tomorrow's raid. Meanwhile, as Lila plays nice, Prida is in Xiaomin's ear, complaining that the desert heat is basically a literal oven. Xiaomin scans the horizon. No demons sent yet, praying that day Sue didn't send him on a wild goose chase. He walks up to Ikari to finish his point from earlier, but she cuts him off, telling him to stay frosty and keep his mouth shut unless he's looking for a Darwin Award. Facepalming, Xiaomin realizes this girl is going to be a 24/7 headache for the rest of the mission. Flying solo, Xiaomin starts his own off-the-books investigation, grilling a local about the half-demons. The man whispers that they're more legend than fact, supposedly living in a hidden village deep in the dunes. A tech-savvy kid on his phone scoffs at the idea of the IS Guild or any demons running the show. A girl chimes in, saying they look just like us. Only a high-spec mana scanner could spot the difference. She explains that these war babies from 10 years ago were treated like monsters, so she doesn't blame them for staying in the shadows, and she bets they're hiding in plain sight right under their noses. Xiaomin scratches his head, annoyed that the trail is cold, and wonders if he needs to go deeper into the sand. Suddenly, Prada calls him food and asks if the cool kids have officially kicked him out of the group. The entity notes that the rest of the squad is moving like a wolf pack, while he's out here being a lonely stray. He sits down, claiming he's just using his me time to chase his own leads. Just then, a voice snaps him out of his thoughts. It's Lila, asking why he's out here catching dust instead of enjoying the AC back at the HMCS base. He says he's just doing some boots-on-the-ground recon and asks what her story is. She reveals Stefan is busy chasing paperwork for the portal permits since the local gov is being stingy. Lila guesses that since he's from the Soul Branch, he must be one of Director Beck's boys. Xiaomin reveals he's the ultimate newbie, which absolutely floors Lila, leaving her speechless. She admits she pegged him for a seasoned veteran because he carries himself like a guy who survived 1,000 wars, trying to dodge the spotlight. He mentions Blackwood praised her as a rising star in the agency. She laughs it off, claiming she's just a boring researcher who moved down from Northern Europe. That clicks a memory for him, a hunter named Hans Skoder. His face goes dead serious in an instant. Lila gasps, repeating the name Hans Skoder like she's just seen a ghost. He pulls out his phone to show her a picture, asking if this is the man she's thinking of. The screen shows a rugged guy with a thick mustache and a smile that could light up a room. She nods. That's definitely him, though he's aged quite a bit since that shot. Then, he asks if they're tight, and she drops the bombshell. Hans is her uncle. She's baffled that Xiaomin looks so young, and he awkwardly jokes that he just has top-tier skincare genes. Her eyes well up as she says her uncle would have loved to see him. If he could actually wake up, she reveals. Hans has been a vegetable for 2 years, trapped in a coma by the dreaded portal syndrome. Xiaomin goes quiet, his mind racing as he hears the diagnosis of portal syndrome. It's the dark side of the job. Mana and portals are still a total mystery, and their infections are a death sentence, she says her uncle. Dove too deep into a gate to rescue a buddy and stayed in the red zone for too long. By the time the rescue team dragged him out, his brain was already fried by the mana overload. Now, she raids high-tier gates in her downtime, hunting for a miracle cure. Xiaomin asks if she's looking for legendary loot like elixirs of life inside the cracks. She admits it's a long shot, but he's the only family she's got left. Right then, Stefan rolls up, announcing that the red tape is cleared and the portal is officially open for business. Lila stands up, says she'll grab Akari, and tells him to meet at the drop-off, watching her walk away. Shio makes a mental note to pay Hans a visit. The scene jumps, and the whole squad is now bouncing in an off-roader through a sea of sand. Inside, Ikari is whining about the sand getting everywhere and asks if they're there yet. Stefan blames the spotty GPS for the delay, but promises they're just over the next dune. From the back seat, Shio notes that prepping for a midnight raid is a whole different beast. But he checks himself, reminding them that once you step through the gate, the outside world's clock stops matching. Inside a portal, you can find a sun-soaked paradise or a pitch-black abyss where light goes to die. He finishes his Gate 101 speech by saying you never truly know what's behind the curtain until you pull it. Ikari snaps that everyone knows that, but Shio cuts her off, saying actually, no they don't. He explains how the portal's atmosphere can warp a human mind, which visibly rattles Lila. Ikari snorts and asks if he's going to give a lecture on portal syndrome next. Shio fires back that while they're pros, that's usually the kind of cockiness that gets rookies killed. At that point, Lila steps in as the mom of the group, demanding they stop the trash talk and focus. The car finally skids to a halt right in front of the swirling portal in the middle of nowhere. Ikari marvels at the sheer size of it, while her partner confirms it's a beefy A-rank gate. Stefan scans the perimeter and notes the area has been scrubbed cleaner than a hospital floor. The sand shows that any lingering mana signatures were wiped out ages ago. Xiaomin doesn't sense anything obvious, but his gut tells him someone went to great lengths to hide their tracks. Lila tells Akari to stick with the plan, but she just ignores her, saying there's nothing left to see out here. Without waiting for the signal, the two from the Asian team charge headfirst into the gate. Lila is fuming at their main character energy and wonders why they're in such a rush to get killed. Then, the rest of the squad has no choice but to follow them into the glowing orange abyss, while from the shadows, 3 creepy figures are watching the hunters' every move like hawks. One of them, with a face like a road map of scars, grins and says this is almost too easy. He's thrilled they walked into the trap, making his twisted little plan a total breeze. The clock hits 5:40 p.m. It's showtime for the mission from hell. This A-rank portal is no joke, and 6 elite hunters have been drafted for the mission of a lifetime. Step inside the gateway. The high-stakes investigation of the northern desert is officially live. Stefan's nerves are shot since he's not exactly a raid specialist, but Lila talks him down from the ledge. She ignites her skill, casting a brilliant emerald magic circle onto the parched earth, her power. Secret Garden sends roots deep into the soil to sniff out mana and life. She barks a reminder. Find those illegal optimizers. Massive roots explode across the landscape, leaving the rest of the squad jaw-dropped at her insane power scale. After a beat, she stands up, reporting the coast is clear of monsters, at least for now. Even so, she warns them to stay frosty because her radar gets fuzzy the further out the routes travel. Her tactical move? Split the party to scour every inch of this wasteland as fast as possible. She begs them not to pick fights or go rogue, which clearly rubs the main character Asian duo the wrong way. But Ikari tunes her out completely, barking orders at Kyumo to go scout the area like her personal lackey. Xiaomin trolls her for just being a bossy spectator, and she shrieks that she's too high tier for manual labor. Seeing the team dynamic crumble, Lila takes charge to expand her search grid before things get messy. The group scatters, with Kyumo dropping a sarcastic yeah, sure to Lila's request to stay in the loop. Xiaomin just stands there, wondering why they even bothered with a team if everyone's going to play solo. Just then, Prida needles him about being the unpopular kid, but Shio tells the parasite to zip it. Suddenly, he freezes in place, his sharp eyes catching something suspicious on the desert floor. He drops to a knee, eyeing a dark stain in the dirt, a neon sign that something wicked went down here. Prida grumbles about human society, and Shio agrees someone definitely smuggled this filth in from the outside. Sifting the tainted soil through his fingers, he wonders if this foul energy is straight from the demon realm. Without skipping a beat, he fishes something out of his pocket for a quick move. Cut to an old man picking up his phone. It's a direct line from the master. Time to get to work. The master, a bald, imposing figure, checks in from outside the gate, hungry for an update. He reports spotting a shady squad lurking near the entrance, and the master demands a head count. The servant confirms a party of 5, just as we see the elite team vanish into the orange shimmer of the portal. Plot twist. The master is Shio. His servant offers to jump in and back him up, but Shio orders him to hold the perimeter to stop any reinforcements from coming in or the exits from being blocked. Prida is floored that the old man is actually here, and Shio reveals he's been tailing them since the jump. Shio recalls telling him to play it stealthy, and the old man was a ghost at the airport. Prida calls him a slave driver, but Shio retorts that if you do the crime, you've got to pay the time. He kicks the dirt, hunting for whatever was planted with that toxic mana as the sun begins to dip. He realizes that once total darkness hits, this mission is going to turn into a nightmare. In another corner of the dunes, Kyumo trudges back to Ikari to deliver his big fat zero report. Heaving for breath, he says the place is a ghost town, no monster tracks, and definitely no drugs. Ikari is livid, baffled that a fresh, unexplored portal could be this empty of loot. But her partner points out that the real fireworks actually happened outside the gate. He figures the rival hunters outside probably just wiped each other off the map in a bloodbath. She isn't buying that happy ending, arguing that a fight that big would have left mountains of evidence. She remembers the government had the place on lockdown, and if anyone tried to breach it, there would be a trail of breadcrumbs leading right to them. Kyumo suggests they must be chasing a god-tier item, something worth starting a war over. Ikari starts to feel the heat from the regional director, knowing that coming home empty-handed is a one-way ticket to a career demotion. Desperate for a win, she summons Kagutsuchi, a massive, glowing purple energy serpent. With a roar, she commands the beast to rip the earth apart to find her treasure. A colossal burst of violet light shatters the ground, screaming into the sky with terrifying force. Lila is stunned by the blast, since her radar didn't pick up a single thread in that direction. Panicked, she screams for Stefan, who is already sprinting toward the explosion to help. As he disappears, she grumbles about how something always has to go wrong. Suddenly, shadowy figures materialize and box her in, one of them giving her a bone-chilling grin. Elsewhere, Kyumo is starstruck, gushing over the power that just leveled a massive chunk of the desert. Ikari is already counting her magic stones, thinking she hit the jackpot, but the blast uncovers a mass grave. The sight makes the huntress let out a blood-curdling scream of pure terror. Kyumo rushes in to correct her, warning that those aren't human bodies, they're monsters. He calls them shades of darkness, and in a heartbeat, the creature's fingers begin to twitch. And a massive horde of ghouls crawls out of the sand, hungry for a fight. Suddenly, the squad is surrounded by ghouls, and a huntress demands to know how they stayed hidden. Her partner notes the weirdness. The undead usually don't have this much tactical coordination, but she decides to shoot first calling on her Kagetsuchi spirit to end the freak show. Then, the giant purple energy cobra emerges, answering its master's call with a hiss. The beast lunges, pulverizing the earth and launching monsters into the air like ragdolls. The snake's electrical discharge hits the bullseye, deep-frying every ghoul in its zip code. With a smug grin, she says that's what they get for trying to jump a queen. The victory lap ends instantly as even more monsters begin to bubble up from the dunes. Her partner panics, wondering if there's a literal army buried under their boots. He freezes, paralyzed by the endless wave of enemies that just won't stop coming. Meanwhile, the kid spots the real danger and screams a warning that she's about to get flanked. But another hunter teleports in, using a lightning strike to save her at the final millisecond. The newcomer scans the chaos, asking where this monster party came from so suddenly. The girl points the finger at him, asking how his all-knowing boss missed a literal horde under their feet. But her partner cuts the drama, barking that now is not the time for a blame game. With that, he ignites his Kamaitachi skill and streaks forward in a blur of neon blue energy. His strikes mince the ghouls into sushi, but the damn things just keep on crawling. Then, he yells at these creeps, only stay down if you turn their skulls into mush, annoyed. The girl commands Kagetsuchi to just nuke every single enemy in sight. The serpent unleash a devastating tail whip, sweeping the undead horde away like dust. She admits her skill is a mana drain against physical targets, and the hunter notes the leader must be aware. Her partner realizes it's headshot or bust and lunges at a monster with a roar. But he grumbles that this is a total mismatch, as their big AoE skills aren't built for surgical strikes. He knows at this rate, they're going to be drowned in a sea of rotting flesh very soon. From the dark, a mysterious voice echoes, summoning a literal blizzard of arrows. Bolts of crimson energy rain from the clouds, sniping the skulls of the ghouls with god-tier precision. The girl is left absolutely speechless, wondering how anyone could hit every moving target with that much perfection. Across the field, the mystery barrage wipes out the horde without wasting a single shot. Xiaomin steps out from the shadows of the chaos, surveying the carnage with ice in his veins. Awestruck by his power, the huntress wonders what kind of monster hunter he really is, gassed out. Stefan notes he finally gets why Lila missed them. These things have zero life signature. He suggests they ditch the portal, gear up properly, and come back when they have the sun on their side. The girl's partner is all for it, but she's still too stubborn to admit defeat. Xiaomin tells her to drop the ego because staying will only trash the entire mission site. Flushed with shame, she gives a silent nod, realizing they're just burning mana for nothing. But suddenly, her partner lets out a terrified shriek, pointing at a nearby trench. Another ghoul army is surging out. She spins to Stefan, asking if his boss is on the way or if he even managed to reach her. Worried, he admits he tried, but the leader isn't picking up any of his pings. Xiaomin gives him a look of pure disgust, questioning how he could just leave their leader out there alone. Without waiting for an answer, he says he's leaving the small fry to them and bolts. The hunter streaks across the desert, leaving the group to drown in the new wave of enemies. As he runs, he speed dials his contact, barking that he needs a backup sweep inside the portal. He orders them to track the other squad and ping their location. After hanging up, Xiaomin pauses at the canyon to plot his next move. His gut tells him the enemies have snatched one of his own. Cut to the scene. Lila is bound and gagged, realizing she never stood a ghost of a chance against them. She's racking her brain, wondering how these bandits bypass such tight security. Meanwhile, one of the thugs is getting triggered just by her looking at him. But the big boss barks at him to stand down, the ringleader lays it out plain and simple. They're using her as high-tier bait to reel in the rest of the squad and wipe them off the map. He claims the endgame is a total black market takeover, telling his lackey to keep his eyes on the prize, but the goon just mumbles about hating, taking orders from a weakling like their boss. A bone-chilling voice shuts him up, warning him to watch his tongue around the master. The necromancer then slices his own arm, letting his corrupted, dark blood splash onto the desert floor. The stain begins to crawl. And boom, a ghoul's hand claws its way out of the dirt. The white-haired creep watches with a smirk as his undead army rises. The narrator notes that while he looks like a pushover, this guy is actually a top-tier necromancer. Think of necromancy as the ultimate cheat code that spits in the face of the natural laws of life and death. And even in the world of forbidden arts, This guy's skill is the absolute bottom of the barrel. The group leader looks at him like he's a total freak of nature, unlike any monster or man he's ever crossed paths with. But he admits he needs this creep's connections if he ever hopes to rebuild a match, his old man's legacy. Just then, a curious grunt asks for a sniff of the goods, but the boss shuts him down instantly, asking if he's got a death wish. Another guy explains that one vial of this stuff can turbocharge a trash skill into S-rank territory. He adds a grim warning that the user basically becomes a ticking time bomb waiting to go kaboom from the inside out. The leader then pivots back to the necromancer, demanding to know the origin of this mysterious power-up juice. The white-haired weirdo just flashes a creepy grin, clearly enjoying the mystery. He then claps back, mocking the leader for having the nerve to ask questions after such a massive fail. The leader snaps back, claiming the situation was a total freak accident that nobody could have predicted. The captive, Lila, literally laughs in his face, saying she's almost impressed by how shameless he is. The guy in the shades glares, stating he's not leaking top-secret intel to a leader who can't even handle a simple mission. The henchman loses it and lunges, but the necromancer catches the vibe and turns his head. Suddenly, a mysterious woman materializes out of thin air, telling him to cool his jets because there are some dangerous researchers snooping around. The necromancer greets her, asking what a high-profile figure like Lady Crow is doing in this dusty corner of the world. With a smirk, she says she heard a little birdie tell her he was back to his old, twisted tricks. She warns him to stop playing with fire before he hurts the half-demons. He just scoffs, saying he bets those orders came straight from that fossil, the traditionalist leader. Fuming, he tells her to tell her bosses that anyone who gets in his way is getting permanently silenced. But she hits him where it hurts, saying he'll never understand human connections since he only talks to rotting meat. At that point, she freezes, noticing the hostage, and demands to know who the girl is. Lila just watches the drama unfold, thinking the white-haired guy is in way over his head. The necromancer clarifies he wasn't talking about Lady Crow and that they're keeping the girl as a guest for now, with a smug grin. The crow reveals she was actually talking to him, to Ivan himself. She tells him his clock has already run out and starts to fade away like a ghost. Before vanishing, she asks if he's really dumb enough to think they are on his side, blinded by rage. The necromancer grinds his teeth, cursing her for always playing the shadow game. The grunt asks who the hell they were, but the boss barks at him to shut up and act like he saw nothing. With a killer look in his eyes, the leader vows that neither that woman nor the investigators will live to see tomorrow. The trio stumbles upon a literal trail of corpses, and Stefan notes that Xiaomin's path is paved with ghoul remains. He admits they'd be toast if not for Xiaomin and begs to call for some heavy-duty backup. But the huntress is a total beast. She refuses to quit and insists on following him, even though she's practically fainting from mana depletion. Her partner catches her just in time, worried she's hit her limit. Suddenly, she blinks and realizes Xiaomin is back, asking him what the heck he's doing there. The hunter just stares at them with those same, I don't care, ice-cold eyes. Stefan starts panicking about Lila, but the girl snaps at him to zip it. Xiaomin explains he tracked the scent of a battle and can feel her mana signature further down. Her partner asks the obvious. Was she snatched by the same creep who's raising these ghouls? Stefan is in total denial, crying that there's no way Lila would get clapped that easily. Xiaomin doesn't have time for feelings and tells them to stay behind and play with the monsters if they're scared. With him walking away, the squad has no choice but to chase after him. Mid-sprint, Xiaomin confirms the kidnappers are definitely still inside the portal. The girl complains that a disgusting, rotting stench is filling up the tunnels as they dive deeper. Her partner asks if they're 100% sure the leader was actually dragged this far into the dark. The squad hits a massive cavern, and a voice welcomes them, calling them the guest stars of the show. The bandits mock them for making the search so easy, right before ghouls surround them. Triggered, Ikari launches herself at them, calling the enemies a bunch of low-life scumbags. Kumo doesn't stay behind, shouting that he's not about to let his cousin have all the fun. He decks the guy in glasses, who actually has the gall to complain that he doesn't get paid enough for this violence. At that moment, Kumo starts styling on the suspects, using a whirlwind attack to clear the room. The leader is annoyed by their main character energy, calling the hunters a bunch of suicidal brats. He triggers his wolf spear skill, building up a massive golden energy blast. Seeing the attack charging up, Xiaomin just clicks his tongue in annoyance. thinking these bandits are a massive waste of his time. But Kumo moves like lightning, throwing up a magic shield that tanks the hit perfectly, and Ikari realizes the cave is way too cramped to summon her spirit without accidentally team-killing everyone. She tries to slip through the chaos to find Lila, but the necromancer teleports in, mocking her for trying to play the sneaky rat during a brawl. Furious, she tells the trash to move as her body starts crackling with high-voltage lightning. The white-haired guy calls her a nuisance and blasts her back with a heavy hit. Kumo loses his mind and screams no as he sees his cousin fly through the air. Even Xiaomin's cool guy facade cracks a bit as he shouts Ikari's name in the middle of the carnage. Seeing Ikari take a hit, Xiaomin yells her name and reaches out. A golden magic circle erupts to catch her. The light wraps around her like a protective cocoon, swirling with a mysterious, ancient energy that feels totally different. Ikari is dazed, admitting she's never felt a buff or a heal quite like this. Ivan the Necromancer narrows his eyes, identifying the move as a rare life manipulation technique. He thinks it's fascinating since that skill is super rare, which is rich, coming from a guy who raises the dead. Triggered, Kumo charges at the Necromancer, screaming his lungs out, but the glasses-wearing goon intercepts him, telling him to take a breath and not be so reckless. The villain blocks the strike, calling him a brat and warning him their round isn't over yet. Meanwhile, Prida warns that this Necromancer guy is on a completely different power level. Xiaomin knows the guy is holding back some nasty tricks and that this won't be an easy win. Ivan praises Xiaomin for actually having the guts to stand his ground. He sicks the ghouls on him, wanting to see if the kid is high-quality material for his collection. Xiaomin counters instantly with Boreal Gale, shredding the undead horde with razor-sharp blades of wind. Watching his pets get turned into mincemeat, the Necromancer admits the kid is pretty efficient at exterminating his children. Curious, Ivan asks him what his day job is, since he's way too skilled for a normal hunter. He lets out a twisted laugh, asking if Xiaomin is actually a human-eating monster in disguise. Seeing more ghouls clawing out of the ground, Prida panics, screaming that the guy is building a literal army, but Xiaomin decides it's time to level up the fight and drops a massive lightning bolt on the whole horde. The bolt fries the undead to a crisp in a second, with a creepy smile. Ivan admits he's never seen a human manipulate mana with such god-tier precision. Xiaomin fires back that he's also impressed. He didn't know a junkie could be so well-spoken. The Necromancer's face twists, repeating the word junkie with a look of pure, unadulterated hatred. He then refuses to touch the power powder, calling humans pathetic creatures who can't even breathe without portals. With pure sarcasm, the villain spills the beans that the big boss behind this mission is actually human. He claims he only took the job to give these useless humans a chance to be reborn as something actually useful. With a wicked grin, he says humans look best when they're dead and serve as excellent material. Xiaomin realizes the guy isn't capping and starts to wonder if he's the actual mastermind behind the enhancers. He spits out that the guy is a total creep, calling the act of puppeteering corpses both nauseating and pathetic, but Ivan couldn't care less, boasting he can churn out more undead children as long as the moon feeds him mana. While the bosses clash, the rest of the squad is busy throwing hands with the bandit lackeys. A ghoul lunges at Stefan, who's struggling to tank hits while playing bodyguard. Meanwhile, Xiaomin is out here deleting monsters with zero effort. He's just testing the waters, curious to see how long this wannabe Dark Lord can actually last. With a cocky smirk, he drops a bombshell. He knows half-demons run on demonic energy, not mana. Ivan's jaw hits the floor, demanding to know how a human knows that secret. Xiaomin doubles down, confirming he's clocked Ivan as a half-demon, a literal freak born of a cursed bloodline. Ivan is a total outcast, ghosted by demons and hated by humans alike. Our hero keeps twisting the knife, saying he could smell that stray dog energy from a mile away, and asks, "Who's the lost puppy now?" Losing his mind completely, the antagonist erupts into a frantic, jagged laugh, his hands shaking with pure, unadulterated rage at that exact moment. He goes full throttle. Prida chimes in, noting the energy is thick enough to cut, but warns that the villain's moves have become predictable now that he's tilted. Xiaomin prepares to drop the hammer, but Prida gets cold feet, asking if he's really going to redline his body again. He tells Prida to stop being such a buzzkill, saying he just wants to end this with some flair. The entity screams no, A violet energy erupts from the magic circle, lighting up the whole cavern. With a dangerous half-smile, Xiaomin admits this is the kind of high-stakes brawl that gets his heart racing. He triggers his skill. Tamer. Snake out of the ground to hogtie every enemy in sight. The chains rip through the undead, and starts cheering when the ghoul about to bite his face off suddenly turns into a statue. The bandit leader is losing his mind, trying to figure out why his army stalled, only to realize Xiaomin has hijacked the controls, gassed out. Kimo puts the pieces together, deducing that their rookie is somehow puppet mastering the enemy's own summons. Sure enough, the ghouls pull a 180 and start eyeballing their former bosses. The henchmen are screaming and crying for them to stay back. They're stuck in a literal nightmare. The boss hits the panic button, screeching at Ivan to do something, anything to save their hides. But it's game over. The undead horde swarms and shreds the two bandits without a hint of hesitation. Ivan glares at Xiaomin, realizing the guy is actually using domain magic to override his undead. It feels like a sick joke to him. He's low-key impressed by the sheer weight of the dark mana radiating from Xiaomin's aura. Xiaomin looms over him. The strain starts to kick in, tells the parasite to take a nap, and prepares to wrap up the cleaning service on his own. The ghouls, now totally rogue, charge at Ivan. He screams at them to get back to Papa. Left with no choice, he's forced to nuke his own children with a desperate blast of raw energy. The impact is massive, blowing a hole straight through the roof of the cave. With an exit finally open, Ivan bellows that he's going all out, only to find Xiaomin already standing behind him like a ghost, asking coolly if he's still got another trick up his sleeve. Ivan is shook to his core. Suddenly, a voice echoes from the new hole, thanking the chaos for finally giving them a way out. The mystery man rockets out of the cave in a flash of golden light. And then, Lady Crow appears out of thin air, holding a knocked-out Ivan, casually saying, she gives Xiaomin a cryptic smile, keeping the defeated necromancer safe behind her shimmering barrier. Xiaomin asks if he can just finish the job, but she plays the pretty please card, saying Ivan is too important to die and she's not looking for a fight. Xiaomin knows Ivan is the missing link to the enhancers and thinks it's better to cut the head off the snake right now. But he looks at his battered teammates and realizes he needs to prioritize their survival over the kill. Plus, Kintel Crow is on a completely different level than Ivan, so he decides to play it smart and stand down. He grills her. She tells him he's sharp, but he's got the whole big picture completely backwards. She explains that the moderate faction is actually in charge and Ivan was just a rogue agent. With a grin, the woman claims she has absolutely no clue who their big-shot client actually is. Xiaomin calls BS. She denies it, swearing she only stepped in because her group needs Ivan's head attached to his shoulders. The woman admits he has a million questions, but Pinky promises she's just as much in the dark as he is. The hunter turns away, his body finally trembling from the sheer exhaustion of the marathon battle. In the background, the squad is slowly crawling back to their feet. He heaves a sigh and decides to let her walk. But he leaves her with a warning, next time they cross paths. Surprised, she asks if he actually trusts her, but he just says he read her mana. It's clean. To Crow, that's just plain annoying. But before she teleports away, he decides to squeeze out one last detail. Xiaomin interrogates her, wanting to know exactly who this us is that she keeps mentioning, with a smirk. She decides that's a piece of the puzzle she can actually share. She drops the name IS and vanishes into the ether, taking the necromancer with her, watching the empty air. He realizes the half-demons were just pawns being moved across a much larger chessboard. It makes sense. No human would hire freaks like them unless there was a massive hidden agenda. That drug had a nasty kick, but it wasn't the demonic energy he knows. He decides it's time to put IS on his hit list. Lila gushes her thanks to the team and suggests they get the hell out of the portal. But Hunter Xiaomin thinks there are still some loose ends in this desert that need tying up. Ikari asks what happened to the creep, and he just says the villain slipped away while he was busy with the other one. Lila feels the guilt and apologizes for being the damsel in distress of the mission. But the girl tells her to keep her chin up. Watching them, Xiaomin reminds himself why he's a lone wolf, even though he's never truly alone, with a smirk. He tries to check in with his partner Prida, but as he calls out, there's nothing but radio silence. Flash forward. 2 days later at HQ, and Edward Blackwood is losing his mind over the report on the ghouls. He asks about the necromancer. Edward takes the blame for being sloppy and apologizes for sending them into a meat grinder. But Xiaomin brushes it off, noting that because of him, the team, especially Kari, is still in the game, with a smile. He says the mad dog hasn't lost a step, but Xiaomin is already halfway out the door. He shuts down a long goodbye. He's stopped in his tracks by a familiar voice calling his name. It's Akari, who came to thank him for the heal and admit her performance back there was a total train wreck. She promises that next time, without even looking back, he just drops a whatever and keeps walking. He notes Prada has been ghosting him since the brawl, even though his skills and stats are still working perfectly fine. Staring at the sky, at the global HQ, an agent reports that the Middle East team managed to shut down a match. She explains that they weren't the source of the drugs, and the whole ring fell apart once the leader took a dirt nap. Vice President Edward then asks about the state of the portal after the carnage. The agent says it's trashed and slated for closure, leaving their defenses wide open. He lets out a tired sigh, but the girl drops another bomb. She warns that Inspector Juan Cargill is flexing his muscles and is definitely coming for his share. Right on cue, the door flies open and a man struts in like he owns the place. It's Juan Cargill himself. He greets Vice President Blackwood with a smile that's 100 fake and 0 friendly. He immediately starts poking at the enhancer case, asking if things have gone south. Cargill then mentions he heard a rumor that some random nobody from Asia was leading the charge. He keeps pushing. Edward fires back that they were ambushed and did what they had to do to survive. But the inspector snickers, saying that survival doesn't change the fact that the drug manufacturer is still out there. He concludes that at this rate, with a shark-like grin, Edward scoffs at the idea, treating Inspector Cargill's proposal like a total load of garbage. He breaks it down. If this news leaks, civilians will find out about the juice, and demand will hit the roof. But Cargill is stone cold, claiming they just need to hunt the source and kill the business for good. He smirks, adding that since the investigation is lagging, the truth will leak out sooner or later, with a smug vibe. He declares he'll run it by the board, though he already knows they're in his pocket, left alone. Edward is stuck in deep thought, looking visibly rattled by the blackmail he just sat through. The scene cuts to Xiaomin, who's on the phone warning that the case is about to go viral any second. He admits he tried to carry this whole mess solo, but the rot goes way deeper than he imagined, elsewhere and old. Grandmaster asks his student if he really came face-to-face with an awakened necromancer. Back to the call, Xiaomin is told that the manhunt for pandemonium mice is still coming up empty-handed. The caller then drops another bombshell about that specific portal. It's Edward who explains that after a re-evaluation, the portal has officially been labeled a dud. Xiaomin figures the portal was only ranked so high because of the pile of corpses found at the entrance. He notes that empty gates are usually looted, but it's weird there wasn't even a low-level mob left. Edward asks for his take, and a flashback of the villains hits our hero, Xiaomin mulls over the gates, wondering if the bad guys purposely picked an empty one to use as a secret hideout. But a wild theory hits him, and he suggests that maybe the portal itself is a total fake. He theorizes it could be a massive illusion designed specifically to move the enhancer shipments. Edward just laughs it off, calling the idea pure sci-fi, but he promises to check it out and begs Xiaomin to stay on the case, which he accepts with a heavy sigh. Our hero finally kills the call, ending that long, brain-melting conversation. Just then, Hunter challenges him to a spar, even offering a 3-on-1 handicap. Xiaomin doesn't blink, accepting the challenge and saying he's been itching for a solid warm-up. The old master drags another young guy in, joking that without him, they'd be toast. Xiaomin stretches out, praying that some high-intensity brawling will finally snap Prida out of his coma. And that's a wrap, everyone. How'd you like that chapter? I thought it was fire. If you're hyped for the next part, smash that subscribe button and drop a like. Catch you in the next story, guys. Stay tuned.